Good evening. It's now 5:32, and I would like to call the San Fernando Planning and Preservation Commission meeting to order. Roll call, please. Here.
Oh. Vice Chair Mario Lua,
Here.
Commissioner Fernando Diaz, absent. Commissioner Cecilia Martinez,
Present.
Commissioner Flor Sanchez.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have the quorum. All planning and preservation commissioners are in attendance um, physically, and there's nobody on online today, is there?
No.
Okay. Commissioner Lua, can you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Is there a motion to approve the agenda today?
I'll give you your motion.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Vice Chair Lua, Chair Solorio.
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioner Diaz is absent.
Okay. At this time, on the agenda, isn't the quorum in order? Mr. City Attorney, can you please read the quorum in order, please?
Thank you, Chair Solorio. So the Planning Commission observes the same rules of decorum as the City Council. We ask all members of the public that are participating in tonight's meeting to respect that this is a public meeting. People are watching at home, children are watching at home. We ask that everyone observe the time limits and finish speaking when their time is up, and to speak when the chair recognizes them, and to have a civil meeting. And thank you very much.
So the next item is public statement. So the public will have the opportunity to hear them out. If you guys would like to wait till that item is when we go over it, then you'll have the time then um, to 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 talk.
We have one public statement, one person who wished to speak during the general comments period, Enrique Cristobal. You have 3 minutes.
Right? All right. So I'm gonna start by saying thank you for allowing me to speak. I just to me that treatment means a lot. Uh, I spent a lot of years in prison, and just through my change, and then doing everything what we was supposed to do and learning about change. In 2020, the governor of California, Gavin Newsom, clemency my sentence, which allows me to come home, and then coming to a different home, which I understand how treatment is a big part of how to start integrated into the communities, especially now the stigma between mental health and recovery, right? Substance abuse. So it's a big stigma, and I think providing that to the community and bringing that to the community, it will close the gate between not understanding what substance abuse is or mental health is, and then be able to kind of help some of the people in need. Uh, I think the majority of people they have the stigma towards recovery or even substance abuse, and they kind of like I always like to talk about like the commitment of change. It was something that a long time ago that I read, and they were saying like it's like when the sun shines and it's darker and like dark clouds will overcome people that don't understand or they can comprehend understanding. They start like deviating from change, And a lot of these people, all they need is another opportunity to change. They need a place where can go and they can feel themselves and they can find themselves to be able to be different, to be able to be part of the community and not continue getting pushed away and then either ended up being homeless or back in prison. They just need another opportunity to somebody to teach them something different. So like change for me is like it's an amazing. If it wasn't for people like myself today, I'm a substance abuse counselor, and I like to help people. I got certified. I'm getting close. A lot of people tell me to go back to college to get my master's, and that's something that I'm continue pushing. And But it was because of people, the belief of myself, and then that's what I want to be able to like for you guys to understand that you guys can be that part of people to change. They just need that one person to believe on themselves, so that way they can be able to do that change. So I want to thank you for allowing me to speak, and have a good night.
That concludes public comments for the general comment session, and we will have more public comments for item number 2.
Okay, so now we're gonna get to the first item on the agenda, which is a site plan review for the installation of a digital sign on the exterior wall of an existing 6,300 square foot, one-story commercial structure of an existing property located at 12940 Foothill Boulevard within the commercial proceeds development overlay zone. Um, Public hearing is now open for the purpose of considering the site plan review for the digital sign. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, thank you. Tonight, we will have our contract planner, Andres Sanchez, providing the presentation. We also have the applicant who's going to be joining us virtually. So I'll turn it over to Andres.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, and Commissioners of the Planning and Preservation Commission. The first item today is application SPR 2024-026 for the installation of a digital sign at 12940 Foothill Drive. Thank you. Sorry, 1 second. Should I continue without the PowerPoint? Oh, there it goes. There you go. Okay, thank you for holding. So the proposed project entails the installation of a 12.45 square foot digital sign on the exterior wall of an existing commercial structure located at 12940 Foothill Boulevard. The intention of the sign would be to advertise businesses that are located within this existing structure and advertise goods, services, and ongoing sales, including leasing opportunities that the property owner may have at that time or at certain times. And because this sign is a little unique, it's considered an electronic message center sign, which would require review and approval by the Planning and Preservation Commission through a public hearing. Additionally, the sign, which this happened in last year in December, the sign went through review and approval by the Transportation and Public Safety Commission to ensure that there is no interference with traffic signals, any disruption to traffic on the site, or otherwise create any safety hazard due to the sign's presence. Here we have an overview of the existing site itself, circled in red. It's the middle structure in between Home Depot and Target. The shopping center, as mentioned previously, is located at 12940 Foothill Boulevard, and it's located within that 10-acre shopping center. The existing site is Zone C2 with a precise development overlay. And it has a general plan land use designation of general commercial or COM. Um, the existing structure itself is 6,300 square feet. It's a commercial structure which houses 4 individual tenant spaces. Currently, it's occupied by medical and dental offices and restaurant uses. You can also see a picture of the existing facade as well. So this proposed sign, as mentioned previously, is going to be about 12 and a half square foot in size or 64 inches diagonally. And the digital sign will be installed in the exterior wall located under the entry arcade facade that's located facing north of the structure. And the sign itself will be mounted on a mounted plate that's affixed to the wall itself. Here we have just some samples from other locations of the sign, just to give you an idea of what it would look like once it's installed. The sign section of the code under 106933 includes various standards that control the size, the height, and the locational requirements for sign approval. The proposed sign has been reviewed by staff to ensure that it will comply with those standards in the code. Additionally, there are findings which were more for the Transportation and Public Safety Commission hearing, which ensure that the sign won't have any sort of interference with traffic flow, any signals in the area, as well as or propose any safety hazards. At this time, staff recommends that the Planning and Preservation Commission approve the LCD display sign. And we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for the presentation.
Of course.
So I would like to have any questions, Commissioner Sanchez?
Thank you. I just have one question, and that is if you received any type of opposition or negative feedback as far as that sign being installed there.
I can answer that. We actually have had no public comment regarding this item.
Thank you. That was it. Thank you.
Commissioner Martinez?
No questions.
Commissioner Lua?
I had kind of the same question as Commissioner Flores, so I'm okay. No questions.
Okay, yeah, I don't have any questions either. It'll make the area look a little bit better, I guess, and you know, it's more better eye appealing for people that are walking by. I mean, may need some information, whatever's on that sign. So I'm all for it. Thank you.
We do have the applicant that is joining us virtually, so if you don't mind, I'd just like to check in with him if he has anything that he'd like to add.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Dan Crowley. I'm the applicant on this. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, I don't have a ton to add to that. That was well displayed, and just want to thank the planning department for working through this with us and presenting it so well. Yeah, we're really just, our interest is in promoting the tenants on site, the goods and services they have to offer, as well as providing some kind of a directory towards those goods and services for really pedestrians that are already on site. So, you know, as was already mentioned, we've done our best to keep it out of the line of sight of any traffic. It's really just for pedestrians passing through the shopping center to direct them to other offers at the shopping center. So I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any, but otherwise I think it was captured pretty well during the presentation.
Thank you. Is there any other public comments?
No request for public comments in the audience. Thank you.
Okay, The public hearing is not closed. Do we have any more commissioner comments? No? Okay. So is there a motion to approve this first item on the agenda?
I motion.
I second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz absent, Vice Chair Lua,
Yes.
Chair Solorio.
Yes.
Thank you.
Motion passes.
Okay. So now we'll get to the second item on the list, right? So the second item on the agenda today is a conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the San Fernando Recovery Center to a large community care facility and site plan review, the 2023-040, for the construction of a new three-story, 9,733 square foot addition to the rear of an existing two-story single-family home at 732, 734, and 762 Griswold Avenue in the single-family zone R1.
Thank you, Chair Solorio. My name is Marina Krustaleva. I am the Associate Planner, and I will be presenting this proposal tonight. So this proposal includes three requests: to approve a conditional use permit, CUP 2023-004, to allow the expansion of the existing San Fernando Recovery Center to a large community care facility and increase the capacity from 42 beds to 80 beds. A request to approve a site plan review, SPR 2023-040, for the construction of a new three-story addition, total 9,733 square feet, to the rear of the existing two-story single-family residence at 762 Griswold Avenue, and associated site improvements, including the demolition of the existing detached two-car garage in a single-family zone, R1 zone. And the third request is to adopt a Class 1, Class 32 CEQA environmental exemption. Back in 1975, this property at 762 Griswold Avenue became the Casa Rivas Bottom Line Recovery Center. It was a VA administration hospital for substance abuse patients. In 2001, Julio Martinez, the current owner who is present tonight, purchased the facility and renamed it the San Fernando Recovery Center. And it was operating in the same mode since then. In 2019, the center purchased the next door property at 732-734 Griswold Avenue and built new medical offices and group rooms. In last year in 2024, there was a parcel merger application that resulted in merging two properties, one at 732 and 734 Griswold Avenue and another at 762 Griswold Avenue into one parcel. Currently, the San Fernando Recovery Center is the only medical provider offering adult male substance abuse and mental health residential services within an 8-mile radius in the valley. It is licensed and certified by the California Department of Healthcare Services. It currently houses 42 residents, and the request is to increase the capacity of the center to 80 beds. The center operates 24/7. It's a residential facility, and treatment services are provided Monday through Friday between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. The center is operated by 14 staff members, and after hours in the afternoon and overnight, at least 4 staff members are present on site. The center provides 11 parking spaces for staff members and for occasional visitors. The visitations are approved only on weekends. They have to be pre-approved a month in advance for not more than one a month for each resident. And so it's a very limited number of visitors on weekends. The residents are not allowed to have any cars on site, so it's a very minimal traffic. And the center adheres to strict rules provided in the Residential Treatment Participant Handbook. Going a little bit ahead, we do recommend using some of those numbers to provide conditions to this project, not to exceed the capacity of 80 beds, not to allow visitation on weekdays, to have at least 4 staff members at the facility at all the times, and not to exceed 11 cars parked on the property. So this 3D model provides a first glimpse of the proposal. There is currently a 2-car garage behind the existing residence at 762 Griswold Avenue. The garage is proposed to be demolished, and the proposal is to construct a 3-story addition behind the existing 2-story house. The total proposed floor area of the addition will be 9,733 square feet, and the addition will add total 11 bedrooms, 13 staff and medical offices, 2 group rooms, staff lounges, a medicine room, a conference room, 6 restrooms, and an open roof patio with trellis, resulting in an increase of capacity from 42 to 80 beds. The project site historically consisted on 2 parcels, 732, 734 Griswold Avenue and 762 Griswold Avenue. After the parcel merger that occurred last year, it's now a single lot with a single APN number. The total area of the lot is 43,470 square feet. It's practically 1 acre lot. On the left, you see the existing single-family residence constructed in 1905. It is not a historically designated landmark. It's an old house, but it's not on the survey of San Fernando Historical Resources. And to the right is the property that was previously known as 732, 734 Griswold Avenue, and it was improved with 2 single-family residences. The front one was constructed in 1930, and the second unit was built in 1947. This is the overview of the site. You can see that it's almost a square lot. It measures approximately 207 feet in width by 210 feet in depth. It's generally flat in topography. It's located between Griswold Avenue. It's south of Glen Oaks Boulevard and north of 5th Street. And on the back of the property, it's separated by a surface parking lot with carports from Jesse Street. These 2 images show the current situation, 2024 and 2020. You can see that the southern part of the lot originally had 2 smaller single-family units. In 2021, the San Fernando Recovery Center constructed additions to the rear units, and it resulted in the total area of 4,712 square feet. The additions accommodated a kitchen, a dining room, a living room, medical offices, and group therapy rooms. The project site has a perimeter wall and a fence at the front, and it includes paved areas, limited landscaping, and 13 existing mature and fruit trees. That all the existing trees are proposed to remain. This aerial image shows the surrounding areas. The project site is surrounded by a mix of 1-story and 2-story single-family homes to the west and to the south. You can see those on the bottom part of the slide, and this is a single-family R1 zone. To the north of the project site is an existing 2-story, 50-unit multifamily apartment building, which is zoned R3 multifamily. And to the east, you can see 1- and 2-story industrial buildings. It's M1 industrial zone. So the project site appears to be a natural buffer zone between high density and lower density land uses. The project site is located in the single-family residential R1 zone, which is intended to provide for the development, protection, and stability of single-family detached dwellings within relatively low-density residential neighborhoods of the city. There is a number of uses permitted in single-family zone by right and conditionally permitted. You can review those uses, and I just wanted to underline that large community care facilities with 7 or more residents are conditionally permitted in R1 zone. A large community care facility means any facility which provides non-medical care on a 24-hour-a-day basis to 7 or more persons, including but not limited to persons with substance abuse illnesses, physically handicapped, mentally impaired, incompetent persons, and abused or neglected children. So this type of use is considered non-medical residential, so it's a supportive housing use. This use in R1 zone requires a conditional use permit. Conditional use permits examine those uses which have a special impact or uniqueness in their effect to the surrounding environment. The review process by the Planning Commission shall analyze the public need for this proposed use and the benefit to be derived from this use against the impact which it may cause. According to the San Fernando Municipal Code, Section 106-145, the Planning and Preservation Commission shall make the following 10 findings for any conditional use permit proposal. The staff report goes in detail over those findings, and they are included into the proposed resolution. And according to this analysis, all these findings can be made for the proposed project. So this slide presents the site plan and front and rear elevations. In the left portion of the site plan, you can see the existing house, the large house at 762 Griswold Avenue, and the L-shaped addition will be is proposed to be attached to the rear of this existing house. If you can see on the front elevation that the addition will be gradually stepping back from a one-story covered entry patio to the setback front gable of the third story. The maximum height at the ridge will be 34 feet, which is in compliance with the 35 feet limits provided for the R1 zone. The rear portion of the building adjacent to the existing parking lot will step down as well. The northeast corner will be only 2-story, and it will have a large open patio with a trellis on the second floor roof. No exterior changes proposed to the existing structures, including the main house at 762 Griswold and 2 existing structures on the right portion of the lot. This slide shows proposed side elevations. The bottom slide shows the south elevation facing the interior backyard of the recovery center, and it will feature red clay tiles on the roof, 2 open gallery balconies on the second and the third floors, an arcade on the first floor, and decorative light features. And the rear end of this elevation shows the open roof deck patio overlooking Jesse Street. On the top, the side north elevation, which will be facing the existing 2-story multifamily building, will have a very minimal utilitarian design because it will be practically not visible from any street. This slide provides style inspiration chosen by the architect, who is also present here tonight. The proposed addition will be designed as homage to the Spanish Revival style typical for the city of San Fernando and San Fernando Valley. It is characterized by terracotta clay tile roofs, wood corbels, white stucco walls, and soft arches. The project description provided by the applicant states that the charm of Spanish colonial architecture lies in its ability to blend functionality with aesthetics, creating spaces that are both beautiful and livable. So now the floor plans for the proposed addition. I'll just go over what's proposed on each floor. The first floor will include a main entrance covered patio on the right, a welcome lobby with an elevator, 5 bedrooms, a medicine room, an office space, 2 group rooms, and restrooms with showers. The second floor will include 6 bedrooms, 7 medical offices for one-on-one counseling, 2 staff lounges, restrooms with showers, and a balcony. And the third floor dedicated to administrative functions will include the director's office, staff offices and restrooms, a conference room, a staff lounge, a balcony, and an open patio to the back. You can see that the new structure will practically look like a 1920s addition to a 1905 craftsman house. The overall style and materials will distinguish the addition from the original structure to avoid a sense false of history, which follows the San Fernando design guidelines for single-family residential zones that do call for respect for context of the historic city, but also it says outside of historically designated neighborhoods, the eclectic approach within a neighborhood and within a single building is acceptable if executed in a sensitive manner. So staff was working with the architect for almost a year, adjusting the design, and we went through multiple iterations, and it looks like we came to a degree of compatibility with the existing house. So you can see that the front elevation of the addition really respectful to the existing house. The front elevation has the similar symmetrical massing. The slopes of the roofs follow the slope of the existing front house porch and the dormer. Street-facing vertical windows with wood shutters do resemble the existing front windows of the existing house. So the style is different, but the design features and proportions are somewhat similar and work coherently. This is the back courtyard, the rear courtyard, where the proposed addition follows the L-shaped footprint. So it will have a stronger Spanish Revival feeling with those galleries, balconies, and arcades. There is even a little wall fountain on the 2-story portion of the building. And overall, the resulting courtyard, typical for Spanish colonial architecture, will promote a sense of community, interaction, and will create welcoming and home-like environments. Again, this slide provides a 3D model sort of built in the existing built environment, and it shows that the addition will be adequately set back from Griswold Avenue and from Jesse Street. It will not front any of the streets, and its massing is designed to gradually step back, ensuring a transition in scale. The proposed 3-story portion of this building will be taller than surrounding structures and a little bit taller than the adjacent 2-story multifamily building. I believe the architect will explain it more on the physical model that we have here. But the thoughtful design, including cascading sloped roofs and the rear roof deck patio, will reduce the visual massiveness of this addition. It will practically blend harmoniously with the neighborhood and minimize its perceived massing. The project includes a very detailed landscaping design. It will introduce new trees and decorative drought-tolerant plants throughout the site, including the front circular driveway area and both sides of the proposed addition. All 3 existing trees will be preserved, and also 2 new street trees will be planted per Public Works Department conditions. The proposed landscaping will comply with the Model Water Efficient Landscape Ordinance. It's the state law and low impact development requirements for water conservation and storm water management. The analysis includes the findings that a large community care facility is conditionally permitted use in the R1 zone, and the Los Angeles County Department of Public Health recognizes the worst overdose crisis in national and local history and the shortage of local facilities required to face this crisis. The San Fernando Recovery Center has almost 50 years of experience helping individuals struggling with substance abuse, homelessness, and mental health challenges. It's the only provider of such services in an 8-mile radius, and the facility will continue its current operations. It doesn't propose any new uses. It will continue the same uses, just request the expanding from 42 to 80 beds. Architecturally, the proposed addition complies with the provisions and goals of the general plan and all applicable development standards and design guidelines. The proposed development will be compatible with the surrounding area and will blend harmoniously with the neighborhood. The applicant proposed an exemption memo provided by environmental consultant firm Chambers Group, and based on the findings of this memo that you have as an attachment to the resolution, this conditional use permit proposal and site plan review are exempt from further environmental review under CEQA guidelines section 15301 class 1E for existing facilities and section 15332 class 32 for infill development. And based on this provided analysis and findings, no significant environmental effects would result from this project, and the use of this categorical exemption is appropriate. As of 5 p.m. today, we received public comments in writing. There were a total of 14 comment letters received by 5 p.m. and they were provided to commission members via email, or the latest ones were provided in paper copies. So out of those 14 provided, 10 were in favor, in support of the project, and 4 were in opposition. Based on provided analysis, staff recommends that the Planning and Preservation Commission adopt resolution number 2025-003, approving the conditional use permit 2023-004, site plan review 2023-040, the conditions of approval, and applicable CEQA exemptions, allowing the San Fernando Recovery Center to operate as a large community care facility with up to 80 beds, and allowing to construct a 3-story addition of 9,733 square feet attached to the rear of the existing 2-story single-family residential structure at 762 Griswold Avenue. That concludes my presentation, and I'm ready to answer questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So now I'll turn it over for commissioner questions. Do you have any questions, Commissioner Sanchez?
I do, thank you. Okay, let me see, where do I start? Where do I begin? I just want to say, first of all, I really like the design. Of course, San Fernando overall has beautiful designs, but I like how this one fits in perfectly. So I was impressed when I was looking through it, and I'm thinking, oh, I would like to be there, right? Yeah. And I also want to say that I've lived in San Fernando for about 15, 16 years now, and I never knew that that was there. I've driven by Glen Oaks many times, but I never saw it, which I guess is proof that it's working, that, you know, it's seamless into the community. So kudos to you on that. I like that. Also, I noticed that you put some success rates from the residents, and it seemed to me that there's more the completion rate of this center is much higher than some universities, which is another commendable thing. But anyway, so here are my questions. Okay, so I'm curious if this building counts towards the 1,795 homes that we need to build in San Fernando.
It would not count towards those.
Thank you. So I read something about adding a buffer for birds if there were any nests. Can you explain what a buffer is, and if this would be only if there are nests on the trees?
Well, this is from the environmental memo, and actually this paragraph also amazed me. That's a very thoughtful provision, but that only applies if they wanted to remove any trees. They will not be removing any trees. And if any trees might be affected by the construction process, if it happens between February 1st and August 31st, which is the nesting season in California, then they have to do certain precautions and, let's say, make sure that the construction equipment is not working and is not loud within certain number of feet from the tree. But as I understand, the existing trees are more to the right from the construction site, so hopefully it won't be needed. It was just brought up as a precaution in this environmental memo.
Yeah, I think that's important. So I was really glad that it was included in there and that there is some sort of provision in case we need it. But yeah, I've never heard of buffer, and I was like, what is a buffer for birds? I'm curious if there's an entrance in the back at all. Is it only the ones in the front?
Let me see if I can find a good perspective. So you see this existing two-story multifamily building, like an O-shaped, and then behind the project site, there are carports. They belong to this building, so they sort of separate. They cut off this project site from Jesse Street, so there is no direct access.
So all the construction material, all the trailers would have to come in through the residential street, right?
I believe so, but I hope when the applicant has a word, then he can speak to that.
Thank you. Now, there was a comment. Actually, let me rephrase my question. Is there any with the center? Is there any reason to believe that some of the residents might wander outside of the center that could potentially hurt themselves or hurt others while they're going through the treatment?
Again, I believe Julio Martinez will provide a more detailed answer. What I learned, I visited the center at some point, and what I learned, they do have this handbook with rules. They only accept residents who want to be there, who are committed. They have no like gate and guards because if the person violates their rules, if they leave without a permission, they are discharged. They cannot come back. And they are there because they want to be there. They want to change their life to get back on track. So they are more than committed to staying there and adhere to rules because that's their last chance usually.
We can defer that question to the applicant, though, when
Right.
he comes up.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Okay, so then those are my questions for this.
Thank you. Commissioner Martinez?
Thanks. This may be for the applicant as well. I was wondering what are the plans to increase staff from 14, since now there'll be 80, up to 80. And my question also was what you brought up about the rear. I thought maybe there was parking available in the rear, but it's closed, is what I hear. The other is, I heard the third story is administration. I think I heard bedrooms will be there too, or is that just administration?
Third story is just administration, like
okay.
conference room,
Mhm.
offices, lounge with a coffee machine for administration.
Oh, okay.
So patients
Okay.
won't be on the third floor.
I also want to add that I appreciate the addition of the trees and the plants to help beautify the city and just soothe the human spirit for the people who are there and as we drive by and walk as well. It does invite birds, animals, insects. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez.
Commissioner, if I can just try to provide a response. We can, of course, ask the applicant as well for more details, but it's our understanding from the operation plan that was submitted to us that they will increase 2 to 3 counselors to provide additional group services in the evening, but the overall schedule will remain the same.
So will the parking increase for them as well? Do they have enough parking area? For
Staff will be
staff?
there in shifts. So morning
Oh.
staff will leave, evening staff will
Okay,
arrive.
thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you. Commissioner Diaz, have any questions?
No, I think it's a good project. I did a little research. I saw some of the emails. I understand, some of them were negative at first too. When I started reading into it, I was like, I thought it was a halfway house or something like that. But it's been here 40 plus years, So, and it's the only facility like that says within 8 mile radius, that provides these services. So I think it's actually pretty good. Uh, it seems to not been affecting actually the community at all. I will say that I wasn't very well versed in it, so I wanted to immerse myself in it. So they should be commended actually for doing this. Other than that, I appreciate the Spanish colonial quasi mission style for the center. That's actually pretty good. And I understand that there's concerns and stuff like that for, like you said, the parking and stuff like that. But I believe it's like 24-hour supervision, and it's not forced. It's those that want to come in. Um, Other than that, yeah, the parking, I understand that, especially for the people that live around there. I do share the same concerns as Commissioner Sanchez over there, where it's the construction, but maybe if they can illuminate us about how how to mitigate it, because I understand that the neighbors would not like that, especially if they're doing construction and having a hard time going around it. But other than that, no qualms.
Thank you. Commissioner Lua?
I have one question, and that was kind of in regards of and basically for the applicant of the double the size of you know the 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 people that would be housed there. But I think it was answered already. So I love the Spanish style. I'm a Spanish believer myself. I love architecture, which is my background. I love what you guys did with the actual site, and also the fact that I understand the need for these type of services. I call it services because it's really that. And also, what makes me kind of happy about this is the fact that it's going to help people that really want to be helped, not people that just taking advantage of the program just because. So I kind of like that, and I kind of like the good picture there. I like the vibe that it gives once you're kind of looking at this particular section. So it looks almost like a hotel room, like a beautiful colonial Spanish hotel yard, which is great. I think I like that. I'm all for it too.
Thank you. I do have one question. Is there, maybe I missed it, but is this new project, is it gonna have a elevator in it? Is it,
Yes,
Yes?
there will be an
Okay.
elevator. I can show it on the floor plan. It's right here. This is the front lobby.
Mhm.
You enter and here is the elevator.
Oh, okay, cool, good. Okay. I was just concerned because I missed that, Because like that's a code, right? I guess when it's more than 2 floors, it's it's elevator, right? Okay. Yeah, so I'm all for this new project. I'm all for helping people that want to get help. And there's issues that people are going through in regards to substance abuse and mental health and homelessness. So I'm all for it. So now I'd like to turn over for public comments now.
Yes, and if we can invite the applicant up to begin with the public comment, and then we'll go ahead and read folks' names and they can provide comment.
Okay.
I do want to just, I apologize, Chair, if you just give me a couple minutes. I apologize, Commissioner Sanchez, for answering the question without an explanation in regards to the number of units for housing. But the reason why it would not count towards the RENA numbers is because not only it's kind of like a chart, right? So not only do we have to satisfy certain number of units per income level, but there's also certain types of housing units that fall within our report that we give to HCD. So we have to report on number of single family residences, number of multifamily residences, ADUs, JADUs, and what's affordable housing in terms of the if it has a covenant tied to it. So this type of housing is not one in which we report on, and so therefore it doesn't count towards our numbers. That could potentially change because they're always modifying as they introduce new definitions of housing types. So it may change, but as of right now, my understanding is that it would not count. So, thank you.
Julio Martinez, Director of the San Fernando Recovery Center.
And Mr. Martinez, if I can ask you to just, if you can work in the responses to some of the questions in your public comment, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. So first of all, I want to thank you, the city of San Fernando, and the residents that are here, and the people that are here to support us. And I want everyone to genuinely know that we come here to help. It's not a project that it's, oh my God, business is great. It's a project that there's a desperate need. And I have always said this, it always depends where you land at. If you're on the side of the street that your family member has a problem, you're gonna love us. If you're at the other side where you have no problems, you're gonna dislike us. But the truth is this, there's people that are hurting, and we're here to help. We've been doing it for I've been doing it for over 25 years. It's not a choice, it's a calling. And I say this to my residents who are opposed to the project that are here. I come here not to hurt anyone, not to create any chaos. We're not gonna disturb you with traffic. We're not gonna have people running the streets. We have a solid, tight shift because everyone who shows up, which we're so grateful that they show up because they wanna help themselves. You know what I mean? People who show up to the doors because they're saying, help me. And even though there's moments that they choose not to be there, we don't just let them walk out. We give them resources because we're not in the business of creating homelessness. We're in the business of finding solutions. So any questions that you may arise that you want to ask me, please ask me. I'm here. Staffing, we're going to have to add a couple of counselors for the evening shift. There was a stuff that we were supposed to have four night shift. No, it's 2 people per night. But our shifts are like from 7 to 3:30, and then we have different shifts in between from 3:30 to 11:30. So there's multiple staffs in different shifts. So the parking we have is sufficient. And just to let everyone know, every individual that shows up, there's a treatment plan catered to them by a licensed therapist, and it's signed off by a licensed doctor. And we also have substance abuse counselors because we want the best. And, substance abuse is such a big thing, and I don't even want to, because there's people hurting at every corner. But please, any questions from the community or anyone that would like to direct me? Ask me, please.
Public comment. So you provided the public comment, and then we're going to be calling people up to provide public comment. Their public comment will actually be directed to the commission, and then the commission can then ask those questions if they so choose.
Okay.
Okay.
So thank
sorry
you so
about
much.
that.
Thank you so much. I will sit here or sit there or direct. Okay.
Mr. Martinez, did the architect wanted to present?
Excuse me?
Julio, did Elmer want to present a couple of words about design, or it's all covered? Thank you.
Yes.
Please introduce yourself.
Hello, my name is Elmer Valladares. We basically spent a lot of time with Marina, Julio, his staff, in designing the project and coming to a solution that was worthy of your review, right? I think one of the most important elements that I want you to know is that it does have it does transition fluently, right? From the residential to what you see as a monolithic apartment building, right? And even though this building will sit, I would say, 14 feet higher, right? It's 34 feet. This is about 22 feet. This still looks a lot bigger than what we're proposing, right? So it will blend in as it goes from residential, right? Because these are all one-story building structures here. And the houses here are also one story. And it just seamlessly continues where this is a 2-story. And then we actually set back to kind of integrate with the architecture. back areas are like commercial properties. So it really just transitions and blends in fluently. And I just thank you for the comments on the design. It was a lot of work with Marina and Julio, like I said. But the main point for me is that you guys understand that it doesn't create like a monolithic, out of place structure, right? That's really all I really wanted to share with the committee.
And if I can just ask you to use the microphone whenever you,
Oh, I'm sorry.
if they ask questions or if you respond, just so that way
Yeah,
everyone can
sorry,
hear.
sorry,
Thank
sorry.
you.
You can ask a question.
A question about green space for people who are walking their dogs, their children, to Glen Oaks. What will the green space look like for them?
Well, yeah, I mean, in the front, we did propose with Marina, right? Per code that the first 20 feet, we really had to have a 50% landscaping involved in it, right? And we did want to beautify it with trees and colorful landscape. We hired a landscape designer for that, and she came up with a really good, which was introduced and I believe included in the paper, a landscape. We also are proposing rain gardens inside the property to deal with like the rain runoff, right? When it rains, connect the gutters to the rain garden so that we slow the flow of rain runoff into the streets. But as far as green, as far as people walking their dogs, it will be a beautiful front area that it will be pleasing to the eye.
Thank you.
Do you have any questions, Commissioner Sanchez?
Yes, I was thinking, I think, I think you said that the entire parking lot was being built, right? Is there anything that will need to be demolitioned and if so, any risk for asbestos?
No, actually, we're not even touching structurally. The building will be standalone, even though it's gonna abut to the existing two-story house. It's actually gonna have a separate wall, right? So we won't be touching the existing structure at all.
But there is a structure on the property that's being demolished, correct?
Correct, the garage, yes.
So during our construction phase, we do ask for reports if they're of a year. And so that'll, when it goes to the next phase, if there's any reports that are required, then they'll be asked at that time.
And I'm assuming that the necessary precautions will have to be taken by the permit, right? Because, right?
That's correct.
Thank you, that was it.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Diaz?
No, I'm good. And then the plants that you talked about or you wanted to know more about, I think there's a legend about it, right? So it shows right there in the front which ones they're kind of thinking about installing. Actually looks pretty good.
Thank you. Commissioner Lua?
I don't have any questions.
Thank you. I don't have any questions too, but thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
It does seem that you guys took a lot of effort and time and trying to make it as good as it should be. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
So Marina will start reading up names for those who submitted their public comment card. If you didn't submit one, you can still submit one and speak. She'll read 3 names just so that way we can line up and be efficient.
So the first one is Mario Castillo. Then it will be Maria and Manuel Garcia from 666 Griswold Avenue. And the next resident is 666 and a half Griswold Avenue. No name, unfortunately, just the address. So each person has 3 minutes, and please speak to the microphone. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mario Castillo. I'm very proud of this project right here. I've been working with Julio for the last 26 years, 25 years with the center when it first started. I support him with everything he's been doing. I sponsor a lot of guys that went through that house that are still doing good, a couple of lifers that did over 40 years that are in the union now, working, staying clean and sober. I help a lot of guys. I still got contact with a lot of residents that have been through there in the past. I go there, we do 12-step groups, Narcotics Anonymous meetings, AA meetings. I've been supportive of his program ever since. It's the only program that I work with. Me and my boss, I work for Danny Trejo. So me and Danny, we've been all over a lot of rehabs everywhere in California. And this is the best one in San Fernando that I recognize that helps the people that needs the help here, you know, because we're from the valley. And just seeing that aspect of helping people that need help, it's like it's at the fingertips right here in the San Fernando Valley. So it's what we do. We work with Governor Newsom, the Mayor Karen Bass. We work with all these people, and they give us information like where do we need help. And all the time we have problems with the housing, the transitional housing, the recovery program, because a lot of people don't want to go. But the people that do want to go, when we send them there, they're well taken care of. We know we don't got to worry about them. And we've been doing this for so many years, you know, and you know, I just celebrated 28 years clean and sober. You know, I work with a lot of guys in prison that are coming home. I sponsor those guys that are willing to change their lives. And we help a lot of people in these streets of Los Angeles. And that's our goal. That's my boss's goal, and he's been doing that for 50-something years, you know, right here in the Valley. So, you know, it's a good project. I know most of his staff now. You know, I go to that house whenever I get a chance and stop by and visit to check it out. And a lot of people call me. I work with Scott Budnick from the ARC program, Anti-Recidivism Coalition, downtown LA. You know, Amity Foundation in Los Angeles, California, where a lot of people get their contracts from to house these people that need the change, you know, and that's what we're all about. Like Julio said, we came here not to hurt anybody, but to help people, you know, and that's what we do, you know. So I want to thank you guys for allowing this project to succeed. That's it.
Thank you. Maria and Manuel Garcia, please.
Hi, everyone. My name is Carlo, by the way, not ma'am. Samano is over there, but she's my neighbor, next door neighbor. The reason we're here is just, you know, we're happy for all the people that basically came through the program and were successful. And we have nothing against the people or the program or what the project is. I know it's a very beautiful project. We can't see that. But the point is that we want to keep the neighborhood, and especially that Greensville Avenue and the surrounding neighborhoods, to the same character that it is now. We have no problem with people that want to go through the program as what you call the substantive abuse. We have no problem with that. We already have the buildings there, as you can see here, the existing ones, 762, 34, 24. What we don't want to have there is a 3-story building that is basically changing the character of the neighborhood, the street. What's changed next is the demographic of the street. As I said, this is nothing about the racism, discriminative, or anything. This is the reality that we're living. I know people need help. We all know. But changing basically the way these buildings are and putting a 3-story building there, it's not a help to us. We are the residents there. And we want to keep the single-family residents the way they are for many reasons: safety, security, traffic, the street being crowded, busy, and moreover, the real estate value. I'm a real estate broker. I'm also a plumber, both licensed for years. I've been doing this thing for myself, for other people too. And as I said, I'm mentioning this again for everybody that's here to support Mr. Julio. I'm supporting him too, no problem. Our problem is a 3-story building. If Mr. Julio is really concerned about the people that need help, as we all are, and I hope I could afford such a project, why doesn't he just build a flat single-family homes on the back rather than going up in the height? And I mean, I appreciate you guys are here, but the way you guys are talking, no offense, but the point that you're expressing is basically you already benefiting somehow to this project that it looks like you guys are living on this Griswold Avenue, but you're not. To the point that Ms. Sanchez,
Excuse me, Carl. Can you please speak to the microphone?
to the point that Ms. Sanchez wanted to go to leave this project just because she saw the architectural design. I mean, that's kind of, to me, it's not a fair assessment of the project. You look at the architect of, you don't look at the other issues. People have, I don't have kids, but my other neighbor have kids. I already have an incident with a resident of this building. I didn't know what's going on, and I went to the police station because what happened, someone from 762 Griswold Avenue, a year and a half ago, on the summertime, showed up on my doorstep, all sweat and shaking, and asking me that I want my driver license. And I said, who are you? He said that my driver license is shipped here because I use the addresses. I said, I'm sorry, but you don't live here. So he went back, he ran away, basically. I was confused of what's going on here. So the day after, I checked my mailbox, I found the driver license on a 762 address on Griswold. And because I was new, I moved in 2021. I'm sorry it took a little bit more time, but I took this to the police station and I said, hey, this is what happened. The guy showed up to my doorstep, shaking, sweating, and asking for a driver license with my address on it. And this is that driver license. So they checked that and they said, no, this is not for you. This is a person on a parole and is living somewhere else. So don't worry about it. I said, okay, so I have nothing to do with this. They said, no, probably was maybe a mail mistake. No, the address was initiated wrong. Well, that's my point. I mean, I just think that the Griswold Avenue, when I moved here with my wife, I'm Armenian, by the way. When I moved here, I just looked at the neighborhood. I knew these buildings are here. I had no problem with them because all flat single-family home. Anybody? Yeah,
I'm sorry, we have a lot of people in the audience. Let's give them the opportunity. And Carlo, I'm sorry, IO 666 and a half, Griswold? What's your address?
672.
He's my next door
Oh,
neighbor.
okay, thank you.
Do you want me to say it in Spanish or in English?
If you haven't
En
requested,
español?
We
English?
have
don't-
translation.
Yeah.
We don't have translation.
No, I
services.
can say it in English.
Okay.
Okay. I agree with what you're doing. I was speaking to him earlier and I told him that I put two of my brothers in, speaking too loud, in a rehab. So it's great what you're doing. I mean, but like Carlos said, we already have a problem there with parking, with the people that live in the apartments. Now, I took a note of it when you guys were, if you guys, we had our construction business for 35 years. Now, I know when you say that everything's gonna go well, when a building is being built, it's not gonna go well. It's noisy, there's no parking. So my concern is, you guys are not gonna live there. You guys are approving this and you love this, the design, everything. I love it too, but I live there. And we have kids, we're surrounded, in 1 mile, we're surrounded by an elementary, junior high, and preschool. And I was telling Julio that in the past, I saw some of the guys walking through the front of my house. I had a jumper there for my kids, my grandkids. I had to put it in the back because every time they were in the front, I was always concerned. Now I'm concerned, who's walking in front of my house? So I just want you guys to take in consideration, you guys don't live there, we live there. We're gonna be dealing with the noise, the parking. All these guys that are here and getting help, I'm so proud of you guys that you're getting help. And if there's anything I can do to help out, I would love to help out because my brother has been drug-free for 20 years. And, you know, it's a great thing you're doing. But Griswold is a very busy street and there's never parking there. Not Newton, but Griswold is always packed of traffic. And I know you guys said that no one's gonna be driving there, but my concern is you have 40 beds and you're gonna do 80 beds, right? you're expanding it. Why not putting money into somewhere else instead of there? And building a bigger unit somewhere where it's not gonna be around the neighborhood. You know, I totally, we would help out. We would have yard sales, we would have whatever to help you out. But why there? Why in a commercial you're gonna bring not the man? I'm happy for them that they're getting, you know, they're gonna get help. But just delivering the materials, you're gonna have to do it through Jesse Street. Griswold is, I know my time is up.
Thank you, Ms.
I
Garcia.
understand. But, you know, please think about it. If you live there, drive by there when you can.
Thank you for your comment, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. There was a comment from 666 and a half. Griswold, who was that? 666 and a half. No, no, Griswold. No, no one? Okay, then we have Daniel from 777 North Maclay. And after Daniel, it will be Adrian Reveles. And then it will be Pastor, I'm sorry, Pastor Rubio, Pastor Rudy, I apologize, from 133 Park.
Thank you for your time. My name is Daniel Cervantes. I'm the pastor of Power of God Now Ministries in the city of San Fernando. We've been here since 1980. First and foremost, I want to thank you for your time. Just a few, before I was waiting outside on the street, and somebody gave me this card, and it's North Valley Caring Services. I want to stress the seriousness of the situation that our city, our community, our county is going through. I couldn't believe the stats that she was quoting out. Very good. Within 8 miles, this is the only rehabilitation we have, home for men. Just a few months ago, I was right here on the street on McClay and Truman. I ran into a 13-year-old on methamphetamine. That's how serious the situation is. It says right here in one of your stats that it's never, in our city, we've never had this, and that's a reality. I came home in 2017 after being in prison for 10 years, and I couldn't believe what I was seeing in our own city. So for me, this rehabilitation, it's a plus, it's a benefit, it's most needed. It's within 8 miles? Wow, absolutely. I'm for that. You know, there's some people that are in front line, just like North Valley Caring Services in the front of City Hall. In the front of City Hall, they're outside giving this at your doorstep. This is how serious it is. And so for me, being in the front lines, what that means, I'm under the bridges, I'm in the streets, I'm out at night with the ministry, pouring love and community and caring that we are born and raised in this city, showing the love that we're supposed to, not shutting a door, but opening a door for help as they are at your front step of the City Hall. I love my city, been here, raised here, known a lot of people here since I was a little kid. I love my city, but there's a need here. And the simple fact that he has a heart to lift up our city, not only but with the view of it, it's beautiful. But you said yourself, man, I didn't even know it was there. I didn't know it was even there. I go there, I participated in Bible studies. I've helped a lot of the men that have come out of there, and those men themselves have come back into our community and helped out plentiful. So I ask that you please really look at your city and what's really needed here. Really, really look at what's needed at the front step of City Hall. We need this. So I ask that you please look at your heart and look at your city as you're driving around and look at the need that's needed here. I thank you for your time. God bless you.
Adrian Reveles.
Hello. My name is Adrian Reveles. Thank you for hearing me out today. Hello, everyone. I am a graduate of the University of Southern California. I'm also a board-certified licensed therapist. I also sit on the advisory committee for the Substance Abuse Prevention and Control for the Los Angeles County. And I also work for Mr. Julio as a therapist. I work with his clients. But I'm also an individual who suffered from 26 years of addiction, an individual who spent 16 years in prison, and an individual who pretty much was living on the street in my addiction, and really didn't have any guidance or any direction until I went into a treatment center just like Julio's treatment center. And it is why now I stand before you advocating for such treatment centers like Julio's, and not just because he employs me, right? But because I'm evidence that this works. And for the lady, I really am happy that your brother, that both of your brothers found a new life and a new way of living. But what I would like you to think is, in that treatment center that your brother went, let's just imagine, and I want you to close your eyes and just imagine for a moment, if that treatment center wasn't there because the planning commission did not approve it. So this work is very important for me. I live and breathe treatment. I even went as far as a couple of times being 5150s. For some of you, you know what that means. And now the state of California has given me the authority to do that now. So this is how much a life can change with treatment centers like Julio's. Studies show that in actuality, where treatment centers are built and operated, there's really no homeless situation going on outside of the building. Where there is some issues going on is with homeless shelters, and this is not a homeless shelter. In this treatment center, if you're going to go to this treatment center, you're expected to carry out treatment responsibilities. You have a treatment plan, which I sign. These individuals get wraparound services. That means they get care coordination, case management, they get therapy sessions. They're referred to psychiatrists. We try to stabilize them as best as possible. And after treatment, like I said, I work with a lot of network providers. We have a step-down process where they're not just, hey, released onto the street. They're actually released onto RBH, what they call
Thank you,
recovery bridge
Mr.
housing.
Reveles. I'm very sorry you have.
So we're leaving
this
houses,
remain.
but thank you for letting me talk. Appreciate
Thank you. We appreciate that too. Pastor Rudy, I'm sorry.
Hello.
1 second, we are working.
Yeah, maybe I can't see the timer. I usually need a timer.
Please speak into the microphone as much as you can.
Absolutely. Every Sunday morning they put me on a timer. Just tell me when and
Okay, please
Right.
introduce yourself one more time.
Okay, thank you so much for this opportunity. And just to cut through the chase, since we are on a time limit, I'm here in support of this project. And I just want to say that thank you for this opportunity, and especially for the fact that been involved in people's lives since 1978, having changed my life. I used to get thrown in the jail right behind us, the small one, not the other one, back in the 70s. And just to talk about redemption and restoration, that as a pastor, pastoring in San Francisco throughout all the 80s, the 49er reign, the Joe Montana era, which we're happy about. But also, we've seen so many lives changed and transformed, and many of us have been changed by that. So much so that we become productive citizens in the community that actually contribute back to the community. Hidden treasures that we find, that people that got buried in addictions and problems and trauma and have found redemption. I'm one of those also. And the last few years working, of course, for 12 years, I sat on the Transportation, Public Safety commission just recently moved on from there, currently sitting LA Metro, and we're constantly addressing the issue of homelessness, addictions, mental health, and a combination of very complex issues. And so with that said is, I want to say that my testimony about what Julio and his group and what they do is second to none. They offer one of the first class when you go, and I believe what Mario said is true. When you go to different spaces and places, you know, you're not going to see this type of qualitative type service delivery that you're seeing and really impacting. And what I appreciate about it also is that they also work together with law enforcement, which is a key component to make sure that we have a good, safe, sound community while we're healing and transforming our communities. Very critical. So I just ask you to keep it in consideration that anything's possible working together with the community
3 minutes.
and with you guys. So
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. God bless.
I believe it's Alex Angel. Do we have such person? I'm sorry if I'm misreading the handwriting. Jason Cruz, Jess Dillon. Okay, Jess. You can start.
Okay, thank you. I'm Jazz Ellen. Thank you very much for the council member. What I want to talk about is I've known Julio for 15 plus years now. I too am a product of the recovery. I am today standing in front of you, just celebrated a double-digit birthday because I'm not using, I'm not drinking. I'm actually a responsible businessman. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I'm a grandfather. My wife tells me, she said, tell your friends in recovery, I thank them more than you thank them because I got my husband back. This problem is serious, folks. Ma'am, you said your brother recovered from that. Let me enlighten you.
We
what
can
the-
just make sure we're directing our
Oh,
comments
sorry,
to the
sorry,
commission.
okay.
Yeah.
Let me enlighten you, the citizens, okay? What we've allowed in this city, in a 2 square mile, we have allowed 24 plus 44, 25 and 44 liquor licenses in the last few decades. That's 69 liquor licenses. While he's busy trying to fix them, the alcohol industry is creating enough customers for him, and all the homelessness out there. If we don't, 8 mile radius, there's not a single recovery home out here. You go out to the west side, they got them all over. All over. I've actually visited people in Malibu at Promises. They're paying $60,000 a month. And we're trying to get something for the east side here, for the Latinos, so they can get some help, because otherwise, it's a sinking ship for these guys. There's no way, no help out there. All I'm asking is the residents, please don't go with what they call NIMBYism, not in my backyard. Because if it's not here, then where? I don't know, Marina, if you can put that slide back up. If you look at the picture of the building, you don't see the 3-story building. You see the front original facade still kept the house, and behind the proposed project and the sides is all commercial buildings. So there's no way I want to be sitting in my front yard and looking at this 3-story monstrosity. I don't see that because it's all commercial. So for me, I would love for you guys to please open your hearts for the citizens and let this project go through and support the council member, Commissioner Sanchez. You said it so well. I didn't know this project existed, because trust me, if this project was a problematic, men and women of San Fernando PD would know about it. They would be in here saying, we don't want this project. And more importantly then, if you have an issue, I love this man. If you call him up, he will help straight up resolve whatever the issue will be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dillon. Lucy Davila Andrew Guerrero, Ronald Nahar. Ms. Davila, please speak to the microphone. Thank you.
First of all, congratulations to all of you who received help. I'm not here to complain. Well, I am kind of about to complain, but first of all, I wanted to ask you, in the past 5 years, how many police activities, how many times have you guys had to call the police?
Excuse me if I may. The public comment period is the time to address comments to the planning commission. It's not
Okay,
a, it's not a
I just want
question
to know
and
because
answer.
I live like 7 houses away from there. Like you said, I can't remember your name, that you never knew this place was there. I know it's there because it's around the corner from my house. I've seen police activity there. Not 1, not 2 cars, up to 5, 6 cars. Not sure what happens, they don't tell us, but that area, I try to stay away from walking because I don't know what's gonna happen. Is this new building gonna have a gate in the front? Is it?
Yes.
Because I didn't see it in the plan. For the parking, we have a lot of problems with parking. Now, you guys are gonna have more staff, there's gonna be more parking, the need for more parking. There's gonna be people working at nights, so there's still gonna be parking out there. As it is right now, we have a lot of problems with the people living in the apartments. A lot of them leave their trucks in front of their house like up to 5 days. A lot of times have to call the city and say, this car has been parked for over 5, 6 days. I can't put my trash cans outside. My sister is my neighbor, thank God. I sometimes have to put my trash cans on her side because I can't put them in my front. Now, having more people, either that are working there, they're taking more parking space. There's a lot of space I think I've seen on First Street. I don't mind having this building there. There's empty space over there. Why can't they build over there? If this is gonna be a new building, that way you have 2. If somebody doesn't wanna go over here, they can go over here. That's my problem, the parking and the safety. That's all I have to say. One more thing, I just became a grandmother and I wanna take my granddaughter out there walking. With more people there, I'm gonna feel a little bit more insecure. And I don't think it's fair. I've been there for more than 20 years, living there. I love the city, and I hope that these more people get help. But there's always another way that you guys can build another facility, even if it's in San Fernando, somewhere else where there's more parking, but there's not that many people complaining about it. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Davila. Andrew Guerrero. Ronald Nahar.
Good evening. I'm Ronald Nahar, and I'm just here to support Julio and his projects here. You know, I've been a supporter of Casa Rivas actually before Julio was the owner, over 35 years, you know, and I'm sorry to hear that the community is suffering behind this, but you know, and I'm born and raised here in San Fernando myself, and I come from the other side, we're on Kalisher, and but I've seen San Fernando grow up, and I've seen it with all these problems also. I grew up in that problem myself, and I've been clean and sober myself going on 38 years. And sorry for the inconvenience, but you know, there's parking problems all over, you know, all over. Not just in San Fernando, but in Pacoima también, you know. So, but to help men and women, that, you know, because this house is only for men, yeah. But you help the men, and you also help the families of those those men, you know. So for the better good or the greater good is that, you know, we can only save one person, you know, you save a whole family, plus the ripple effect from that one person that gets saved, you know. And there's a lot of people here supporting Julio that are from our recovery center that have gone, they've been around, you know, and they're all productive members today, you know. I myself is a productive member of society today, and thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Nahar. Mrs. Sylvia Balin, then Dede Poyon, and Mario Hernandez.
Good evening, Commissioners. I am here today in support of Agenda Item 2. There is an urgent need to expand the San Fernando Recovery Center. Unfortunately, our city and Los Angeles County as a whole faces a growing demand for recovery services. Nearly everyone knows someone, whether a friend or family member, who has struggled with substance abuse. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, substance abuse in Los Angeles County has surged. In the first month following the initial COVID-19 fatalities, overdose deaths rose by 49%. Specifically, substances driving this increase include alcohol up 171%, heroin up 108%, fentanyl up 78%, amphetamines up 55%, and cocaine up 45%. The data is clear. Our community is facing a substance abuse. The San Fernando Recovery Center has served this city for over 40 years, yet many residents remain unaware of its presence. Despite this, the center has been a steadfast resource providing high-quality care and support to those in need. I have personally visited the center and can attest to the professionalism of the staff, the strict rules clients must follow, and the no-nonsense leadership of Director Julio Martinez. The proposed expansion and additional beds are a direct response to increasing demand for recovery services. People are struggling and their families are struggling alongside them. If you have a loved one battling addiction, you understand the critical need for support. Even if your family has not been affected, the reality is that this crisis touches many in our community. Expanding this facility will help address a vital gap in recovery services. I understand that parking is a concern for some. However, as outlined in the agenda report, clients are not allowed to have vehicles. Visitor days are limited, and on-site parking, staff parking is provided. Mr. Martinez is a respected leader in this field, and his dedication to this community is evident. I urge you to support this expansion and help provide the services so many desperately need. And those that oppose, I'll pray for you.
Thank you, Ms. Balin. Dede. Didi?
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I know Julio on a personal level. I worked in treatment for 10 years as a counselor, not for him, but as a substance abuse counselor, and I'm now a therapist at high schools. And saying that, people are talking about what problems it would cause, but what about all the, I don't see the problems, I see it's structured. What about all the problems in different areas that's not structured? They're saying that they have counselors, they're saying that they have people 24/7. I live in a nice area and there's all kinds of issues, and it doesn't matter. There's no counselors there or 24/7 anything. So I don't think anyone's looking at the overall picture. It is going to be supervised. What about all the places that aren't supervised? So, I'm so for it, and he's passionate about what he does, and that makes it even better. So anyways, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Mario Hernandez.
Thank you very much for your time. I greatly appreciate everybody here that came in support. I understand that a lot of support is coming from outside of the city of San Fernando. The city of San Fernando is a small, quaint town that I believe everybody came and lived in the city of San Fernando, but they kept it small, right? Right now, we're looking at an expansion of double the size of the bed capacity. So in keeping to the aspects that a lot of people said it's never been seen, right? Never heard of it, never been around, right? It's because it's small, right? It's not overwhelming. What we're talking about here is to overwhelm that small little corner. I know Julio for a very long time. I've been here since 2000, around the corner from him. So we've become great friends. But at the same time, the city has the I don't know, maybe mandate, right? But to keep it at a limited, not at an explosion type sense. Doubling a complex is exploding it double. This is the second development that that property has done. It has an original one, the second development that they did, and now they're on their third development, which is the third one is now exploding, expanding the size of that little community. You know, and I wish you very good luck on everything that you do. Fourth development on that little corner. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Okay. We will have Sven Johnson, then Paul Dumont, and then Tilly Lucero.
Good evening. My name is Sven Johnson. I'd like to thank the commissioners, council members for allowing me to speak this evening. I'm 56 years old, and I state my age because 30 years of my life was spent I was incarcerated. I'm also a U.S. vet. So from 17 to 20, I was in the military serving in the United States Navy. Not too long ago, I stood on the precipice of the abyss with my toes dangling over the side. I did not know what to do, but with the last vestiges of hope and courage that I had, I reached out to my support system, and I came to San Fernando Valley, which saved my life. Today, I was just cleared by the California Department of Corrections with a 90-day provisional to work in the field of reentry for a company called GEO. I am a facilitator for groups today. I am a mentor for at-risk youth in local communities. I've worked with local law enforcement to increase their knowledge about substance abuse, gang violence, and some more topics. And I owe not only my life to the city of San Fernando, but to treatment centers that do this life-changing work. The previous gentleman talked about the ripple effect. I call it the ripple effect of redemption. And what that looks like is that if you save me, if you support me, I can then take that love and that concern and that compassion and that empathy, and I can give it to others in the community, wherever I go. And, you know, we all need a little compassion. We all need a little empathy. And the thing about addiction is that, you know, it does not discriminate. It doesn't care how much money you make, what kind of car you drive, what your ethnicity is. It will reach out and touch each and every one of us in our families. And it's not a matter of if, it's when. This is how pervasive this disease is, and it would go so far in helping the residents of San Fernando Valley and the community as a whole if we look at the big picture of what this disease is capable of doing and what it has done to our communities. So I thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Paul Dumont.
Good evening, folks. I think I can skip my 12-step meeting today. I appreciate your work. I know it's thankless and kind of wonky, boring work. Group home issues always seem to add a little flavor to the meetings. Some 20-something years ago, I lived here in San Fernando on Pico and worked when there used to be a Wonder Bread store there until I lost my housing. And I lived in the car in the street in front. So after that and several trips to treatment centers and prisons, I got sober, and me and some of my friends, we couldn't afford the rent. So we got together, we lived in a house together. Eventually it became a sober living home. And after about a year, the local planning board called me up and they said, "Hey, you got that sober living home. We want to talk to you." So I came into the planning meeting with a friend of mine. I got my Sunday best on. I was like, "Man, they're going to give me an award. I've seen those things, So they're going to give me an award." So I went in there and they were all screaming and they were holding up signs and they were telling me they didn't want me in their neighborhood and get out of there. And I was like almost in tears. And then I resolved to fight back. So I started researching this stuff, and I listened to my neighbors. They were like, "You're causing the property values to go down, and you're increasing crime, and you're doing this stuff." So I went back and I joined that neighborhood council, and I became the chair of the planning commission, and I've studied these issues for over 15, 18 years now. Kind of dating myself, right? So as a planning commission, you have a duty of care, right? Not to, I mean, all the emotional stuff's great, and Julio's a good guy, and I've known him, and he's helped me, but none of that matters, man. We're talking about a land use and a zoning issue, right? So the 3-story building, I wanted to address some of the concerns that I heard, some legitimate concerns. There's illegitimate ones and then legitimate ones, right? You know, the guy walking down the street, you can't regulate who walks down the sidewalk, so that's, you got 2 piles of problems, right? But the 3 stories are in the back next to some commercial, right? So, and it does kind of step up. So I think architecturally that makes sense. And it joins commercial and multifamily, right? So the 3-story is a natural fit for that corner. That's number one. The American Planning Association was one of the things that I looked at, and they called these things community residences. And I emailed some comments to you, but they conducted studies, and they said community residences are residential use of land. The majority of courts have ruled that a community residence is the opposite of an institution, boarding house, or commercial use. Number 2, community residents have no effect on the value of neighboring properties. More than 50 studies have examined their impact on property values, probably more than for any other small land use. Although the variety of methodologies, all researchers discovered group homes and halfway houses do not affect the values of even the property next door. I'm gonna skip some of this because I'm running out of time. I don't have a timer, but community residents have no effect on neighborhood safety. Community residents do not generate adverse impacts on the surrounding community. So it went on, and they studied this to death. And
We're at time.
I'm out of time, but
I'm
thank you
sorry.
for your consideration. I support the project.
Tilly Lucero, please.
Hello,
Please speak into the microphone. Thank you.
hello. I'm opposed to this expansion. I do not support it, and I also need to let everyone know that at least 6 or 7 out of my neighborhood, just my surrounding neighbors, did not receive this notice. Our mail delivery is very sketchy, and so no one knew about the meeting tonight or had not been notified of this. They did not receive it at all. They say that there's 80 residents and that they'll be coming out with permission only. So is that 80 people every day coming out, and for how long? I think there's just going to be too much pedestrian traffic, too much vehicle traffic, and a big parking issue. I just do not support this. This is going to be too much congestion, and our neighborhood is very quiet and peaceful, and I think it's just too much at one time. I also, when I approached the building today, I felt intimidated as I approached the building. I was going to walk up the stairs with people with their support recovery sign shaking at me until one of them stopped him and said, "You're scaring her," so I could come up the steps to enter the building. And I know there's a lot more issues that go unreported, a lot more issues that happen in the neighborhood that go unreported, and they're not addressed. They're not being addressed. So I just feel that the children will not be feeling will be feeling just not safe to let the kids out to play or to walk around with them. And I do support the recovery issue. I have family members that are in that same situation, so for that I do support that. But I think the expansion is too big, and I think not everything has been addressed, and not everyone has been aware of this. They did not receive notification. And that is a true thing, and I think it's more expanded than I even know about. But 6 out of the 10 people that I spoke to, because we got together, they did not receive notice. So there's a lot of people, and also you said there was just 4 people that opposed it. I think there was a lot more. There were a lot of calls being made, emails, and the calls were not returned. Emails probably that didn't go through and were not counted, but I think there was more response than you're addressing here. Thank you.
Thank you. And the last name we have is Victor Serrato.
discúlpeme, pero quiero hablar en español. I'm sorry. Ah, tengo 45 años y es lo ilógico de que no hablo perfecto el inglés, pero sufro a veces de depresión.
Excuse me, Mr. Cyril, can you speak in short sentences?
Okay.
Are you saying
Yeah, I want to do short. I love San Fernando City. I lived 35 years in San Fernando, and I don't have any complaint. When I come before here, everybody, my friends say, oh, staff city, the police staff. And I scared. But when I see everything is quiet, everybody follow the law, I'm so happy. And that's why I still live in San Fernando. And that project is good. I don't complain at all. But I live in 65 Newton, and I got a 5 years grandson. Y a mí no me gustaría que estuviera con problemas de ver personas malas around, que él aprenda eso. Y para yo salir y caminar. Okay.
He's mentioned, no problem. Mentioning the fact that he is a longtime resident and is opposed having to worry of residents that are going to be in the neighborhood with a grandson of 5 years old.
Y yo estoy de acuerdo con la señora que habló, que muchas personas que pueden estar en este proyecto no viven ahí. Y nosotros somos los que caminamos, nuestros niños y las personas. Entonces queremos tranquilidad para ellos y seguridad.
He's mentioning that he's agreeing with the previous speaker, indicating that she's concerned and he's concerned of the people that are for and oppose as being residents and being residents of the actual neighborhood, along with the individual who spoke a moment ago.
Una cosa más, yo tuve 2 intentos de suicidio hace 30 años, de suicidio, hace 30 años. Y siempre trabajando pagaba mi aseguranza y con los doctores de mi aseguranza me mejoré. Y yo sé que todos tenemos derechos a muchas cosas, pero tenemos que ayudarnos nosotros. Y este proyecto, yo digo, para la ciudad de San Fernando, a mí no me gusta.
Also indicating that he has, or in the past has had medical issues that he received help for. So he's all for the assistance and for the help, but to a certain extent. So he's opposed to the project.
Quiero mucho a la ciudad de San Fernando.
And he loves the city of San Fernando.
Okay, and we have the last one, Juana Davila. You can still fill out the form.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I've got my timer going, so I'll know when my time is up. To start off with, I gotta say I was disappointed with the panel that your questions or your comments were mostly on the building, and none of you thought of any concerns that the residents might have had in the area. So for our little group over there, we were saying, okay, fine, they like the building. Let's move on to the real reason why you put up for this meeting and why you wanted our comments on it. The city of San Fernando and that area in particular is commissioned for single-family homes. This is not going to be anywhere near a single-family home. So I'm glad that the project as it is now, we know it's been there. We know Julio, my husband and I know his wife, and we like them very much. However, this project of 40 has been working. It has been small to the point where she didn't know it was there. And obviously she doesn't live in the area because she just drives through, so it's not going to affect her whatsoever. whether it stays at 40, goes to 80, or 120. If this project is approved and you have an 80-bed facility, what is it to say that it's not going to then become an outpatient care facility, where then we're having people walk in and out? It's gone now to the 4th level of structure and construction, but we are concerned that not just it's not keeping with the scenery of the neighborhood, but what it's going to do in future if it gets approved. So as representatives for our city, I would have liked more input, more questions as to how it would have affected. As far as the parking is concerned, it's definitely an issue. My sister said we were neighbors. On our street, our homes are the only two that face our street, and yet some days there is no parking. The residents are not allowed to have vehicles, but I will tell you, I know they do, because I had a close family member that was there, and he had a vehicle, and he parked it a couple of blocks away because he wasn't allowed to have it there. So although they're not allowed to do things, things are gonna get done. You're gonna figure out one way or another to do. The program works. It worked for our extended family member, and we are so grateful. He's doing great. But I'm of the thinking, not in my neighborhood. I'm sorry, I just am. There's many other areas where it can be placed. If you're gonna build from scratch, build elsewhere. Keep it as it is, keep it small, keep it so that some of you don't even know it's there. But at a 80-bed facility, it's gonna be known. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Mr. Angel?
Hello, my name is Angel Chacon. I live at 707 Griswold Avenue. Been there 39 years. When I first moved in, there were more elderly people, not so many cars. They all moved out, sold out. Now they had a new generation. Now we all have children. Mom and dad have a car. Sons grow up, daughters grow up. Now they got 4 cars. It takes up the space that we have now. The apartments take up space. So between Defoe, Newton, Brand, and Griswold, there's no space to park. I keep calling San Fernando because they block my driveway. They don't come. And I honk the horn for minutes. When they come out, they say, go left, go left. I'm not going left. I'm going that way. So somewhere, somehow, parking enforcers need to do something better. And at one time, I did see a couple of gentlemen walking down the street with a basketball, bouncing the ball all the way to San Fernando Park. They play ball, they came back, bouncing the ball. They came from that unit. And they do go out. Thank you. I'm against it.
Thank you, Mr. Chacon. Anthony Corral?
My name is Anthony. I just want to say I'm in support of the project. I've spent 15 years dealing with addiction and homelessness, and if it wasn't for a program like this, I wouldn't be here today with a family that loves me, with nephews that know me as the more responsible individual I am. And this is a great project. And I from the bottom of my heart, I appreciate everything Julio is doing. And thumbs up.
Thank you, Anthony. Henry Rojas?
Good evening. My name is Henry Rojas. I'm an official of the nonprofit, the Brewline Men's Fellowship here in the city of San Fernando. We're located in the corner of O'Malvany and Mission. We've been in ministry for 17 years. As a matter of fact, on February the 22nd, we will be celebrating 17 years of ministry. It's a men's Christian fellowship. And This fellowship was founded about 17 years ago, and it was founded by 5 guys coming from a life of drug violence, drug use, gang violence, and a whole lot of prison time. That was, of course, 17 years ago. This fellowship started at the Starbucks Coffee down the street on Truman, and then it's across the street, Truman, to the Brew Line Coffee, and that's how they adopted the name, the Brew Lines Men's Fellowship. 17 years later, we've had thousands of men walk through the doors of this fellowship. For a couple of years there, San Fernando Recovery Center were transporting their guys to our fellowship and joining us in fellowship Saturday mornings at 7 o'clock. So having been coming from a life like that, we could relate to all these guys real quick. We help them navigate this thing called life as they transition into free society. I understand that it's not only people coming out of prison that are in that home now, but we are well familiar with the life of drug use and gang violence and all that stuff. So we can relate with them real quick. And one of the pleasures and one of the blessings that this fellowship has received from this home is that we get the blessing of seeing these men consider the things of Jesus Christ, consider the things of God, and grow in that by power of the Holy Spirit. We continue in relation with the San Fernando Recovery Center by having Bible studies every Monday night faithfully for the past 5 years. And our doors are still open for this home. And we definitely support it. And we hope that it passes with flying colors. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jose Gutierrez.
I'm Jose Gutierrez, and I live at 657 Newton Street. And I'm here to listen, but everything I listen, I'm agree. But there's a nice building, and I hear the people, they agree. Julio say yes, and another person say yes. In San Fernando, some neighbors, they know me. I passed really hard. The last 3-4 years, I passed really hard life. In my house burned. 1994, have a big accident. Somebody going to my driveway, and the lady was my son in my driveway. And it's happened. And here I hear this one, and a lot of help. I feel sorry, but the people need help. So I need a lot of help, and nobody give me. Julio, I don't see Julio when not too long ago, 2 years ago, I need to go to therapy. Who helped me? Nothing. And I think some people here, they know. Lucero, she knows, she lives in front of my house. I passed really, really hard times and no help. I'm 76 years old, and I still go up myself. And I'm still working because I need to go up. Julio, he don't go to 2 years ago when my house burned. You need help? You went to my house if I need therapy? Nobody's going to that, and I need it. My family did. I live 2 or 3 years out of my house, and I need to pay $4,800 myself. And that's what I'm here. I wasn't talking, just listen, but the reason I tried to talk, maybe my English is not pretty good, but everything happened in my house. And him. Oh, really nice. It's really nice. But I'm not ready to go with big buildings in there too. People need help. I know everyone needs help. But when I need my help, nobody gives my help. Even the police here. Nobody. And now, when I came to fight with, where is my plans in here? The lady over there say, oh, wait to numbers coming in front. I mean, you're in the list. And 2 years to work to my plans to build my house. And nobody helped us. You went there, Julio? You died. And I know you because I saw nobody's there. It's only I want to tell you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Thank you for being on time. And Ruben Rodriguez.
Thank you, council members, for allowing me to speak, to share. I just want to add to what everybody else was saying. I'm a product of this program. I finished treatment 2013. I was given resources by my PO, and one of those resources was Julio's place. Back then, it was San Fernando Transitional Living. I was part of that program for a year. I completed. I got off parole. It was time for me to go. He offered me a job. I've known this man for years now. I just celebrated 11 years last October. November. August. This is I can't say I love this program. I love the vision that Julio has for the community of San Fernando. I grew up in the city. I'm so proud to say that because of his help and his providing services, that I'm a productive member of society today. And so, you know what, Julio? Thank you, bro. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Darlene?
My name's Darlene Orozco Negretti. I was born and raised in San Fernando, and my aunt was the treasurer for San Fernando for many years. And so I love San Fernando. But I want to say that I live in San Fernando on Alexander and Glen Oaks, and there's no parking there either. And there's just no parking anywhere, so it's not going to be forever that this assignment's going to go on. It's going to be done. And you're going to be thankful that you're getting people off the street. My son, we have a park down the street. Anyways, there's this park down the street, and my son plays basketball, and he walks down playing basketball. And what I'm saying with that is I'd rather him be doing that than looking for alcohol and drugs, So that's a very structured place. I worked there for 2 years. And I got to say, I felt like the most safest girl in San Fernando because I had all these convicts taking care of me, But they made me feel really safe. And Julio's a great boss, and whenever I needed something, he was there for me and helped me. Before I got clean, I just celebrated 20 years. We kind of ran together. Well, we knew each other in the beginning. But I just want to say that I support this all 100%. If it's going to mean giving people a chance, and I still keep in touch with some of them guys, and I am so blessed that we have San Fernando Recovery Center there, and I definitely am for this. Thank you.
Have anybody online?
Yes, I'm here. Hello, I'm here.
Hello, do you want to provide a public comment?
Yes, I would.
Then you have 3 minutes, please.
Okay. Good evening.
Please
Good evening,
introduce yourself.
commissioners. My name is Carolyn Yorkides, and I'm the founder of Kidneys Quest Foundation. Excuse me, I gotta get my breath here. But anyways, I am calling today because in support of agenda item number 2. I'm not only the founder of a nonprofit here locally in the city of San Fernando, where that has gained to know and to get to know individuals from Julio's program. This program has not only supported the
Oh, I think we lost the caller. I think it's another one. No? Is she muted? Can you hear us? We do not hear you. It looks like you're muted now. But we understood it was in support.
Are there other callers? Okay. I believe that completes public comment.
Okay, so if there's no more public comments, the public hearing is now closed. It's now time for commissioner comments. Do we have any comments, commissioners?
I do, thank you. My first question is for Mrs. Ramirez. If Mr. Julio was to decide not to build that house there, would he be able to build an apartment building, or would he be required to build an apartment building that would satisfy the new mandate of the 1,700 buildings, since we already know he has the space?
He would not be able to build multifamily because the zone is R1. This use is allowed in R1 with this conditional use permit.
Thank you. My second question is, how certain are we that the construction will be finalized by 2026 in order to, stop all of the noise by then? That question is the architect. Yes.
Are you hearing me? Hi. First of all, that's why I mentioned the third project, the building that's an L, that was built in 2019. And I don't think none of the residents even knew we had a problem when we built it, let alone any noise. We try to run efficiently. We strongly believe out of sight, out of mind. We don't like to cause we don't want to cause any distress to the neighbors or the clients. So that's why I mentioned the third is going to be the fourth project if it gets approved. If that was a 5,600 square feet building that we added.
What I can offer to is just to the commission, it is a conditional use permit. We do have Exhibit A, which has a list of conditions. If there are additional conditions that the commission wants to place, you can include that in your motion. For example, if you want a construction management plan, or you want to ensure construction vehicles are parked on site, or something of that nature, you can include that as part of your motion.
Would that include something along the lines of, when there's construction, sometimes you have, trash bins that are parked on the street, to have those parked inside the land?
We do allow for those to be parked at, or not parked, but to have them with an encroachment permit. But if that's a condition that the commission would like to include, is to have them parked on site. If feasible, we can include that as a condition.
Thank you. And my last question regarding the buildings is, does the facility overall, from end to end, the way it is now and the way it's going to be in the future, does it have 24/7 security cameras or personnel on the surrounding areas, not just to see the streets, but anybody that could potentially get out, or anyone intrude in?
We have staff 24 hours. We have cameras at every corner you could imagine. And we have access to it from only the administrators have access to the cameras. Because of the HIPAA law, we cannot provide cameras to the community. However, everybody's a volunteer. There's no such thing as they're gonna escape. They're gonna sign out, and we're gonna discharge them, and we're gonna give them resources. And what we usually do is we take them to another location. The last thing we wanna do is make someone homeless.
And if I can add, Commissioner, as condition number 29, there is a condition related to security surveillance cameras, that they shall be installed on the exterior of the building and view directed towards the street. So with the submittal of construction plans, we will require those to be identified in terms of where those are located.
Thank you. Was there any statistics done, or I'm sorry, I don't even know the word that, a value done if the surrounding homes would increase or decrease in value with this new structure?
We did not do that analysis.
We ask the people in the public to please not speak during this portion of the meeting.
Is that something that can be done before the construction begins? Or,
I think we can ask the applicant if they would be willing to pay for that analysis. It's not an analysis that the city does in regards to this type of project. Those types of analysis might be done on a larger scale when we have some sort of deposit or we ask that from the applicant up front. But we don't have the expertise in-house for that.
is that because because the zone allows for what they're building already? Is that why it's not required?
Correct. So this is before the commission because it's a use that is allowed in the zone with the conditional use permit that allows the commission to evaluate the project and again place conditions to reduce any potential impacts to the neighborhood in order to allow it to be approved and exist.
Thank you. No more questions.
Any more comments?
Yes, I'm curious again about the third story. You said it was for administration, no bedrooms there. Is it possible to build that elsewhere? So because what I heard was it was the height of the building, not your project that is being opposed, but the height of that building. So is it something to consider? Is it feasible?
It's a lot less to build a third-story building. But we have to go back to the architecture design, and it'll just postpone the project approximately 6 months on a perfect day. The third, so just to get it into perspective, once you license a facility for beds, you cannot add more beds. Period. There is a fine of $1,000 a day if you have someone sleeping that's not a part. If we put 81 beds, right now we have 42. If we were to add another bed, just because we decide to put somebody on a couch, we get fined $1,000 a day. We cannot violate that rule. And the third is on the back of the building, where it's going to be next to the apartments and across from the N1 building and the parking.
Right, that's the third story, that's the administration. There's no bedrooms there, I understand. Why, I'm also curious why you decided to go with 80 beds, not 60. Why 80?
According to the statistics from the LA County, there's over, how much was it, Leslie? The numbers that they gave us? Well, the city is, so it's based on calculations, and we did the mathematics for the city of San Fernando. There's 31,000 people, 33,100 people suffering from substance abuse. The LA County has over, how many? I forgot. Remember we were going through that?
San Fernando?
Over close to 900,000, 900, close to 1 million people suffering. So we just did a calculation that we wanted to do 80. We were just hoping for 80 beds. That's it.
Let me clarify. Are you saying there's about 3,000 people here in the city of San Fernando with substance abuse? 30,000?
33.
100 or 1,000? 3,300.
According to the LA County health statistics.
And the people who go to your facility are from the city of San Fernando or the county of LA combined?
We welcome anybody who's willing to come in.
I see.
Residents too.
The other point brought up with the safety, and I think you addressed that with gates. You have gates that are, and cameras, which was a condition also, as you have cameras and gates.
Correct. Where cameras, the residents are only allowed to go out, when they get admitted is through the front door, and we get discharged is through the front door. There's no other way in. Staff have parking on the left side, 732, 734. That's only for staffing. Everything is one fence, and then there's another fence behind.
And that was another thing that was brought up, the parking, and you're saying that is inside. It is not public parking. You have your own private
Have our own
parking
designated parking.
for your staff.
Correct.
It is unfortunate that we are faced with such 3,300 statistics just here alone. I wish life were like the 1950s TV series, you know, where everything is just perfect. It is so sad to hear what our residents are facing. Thank you for the data. As far as the notices that were supposed to go out, I know you have one posted in front. Can anybody address that?
For the municipal code, we have and we do send out notices to property owners within the 500 radius. It's possible that we have sent the notices to property owners who live elsewhere, but not to actual
renters.
residents and renters.
So how would renters then be notified?
We also publish this notice in the local
public
newspaper,
notice.
San Fernando Valley Sun, 10 days in advance.
I see.
And also on the city boards on the sides of the city hall.
Could you reiterate the construction hours so residents aren't really affected, you know, in long evenings, early morning? What are the hours again?
I believe that the hours are on Monday to Friday from 7 a.m. to 3:30. And on the
3:30.
weekends, on Saturday only from 8
Uh,
till
No, actually, construction hours weekdays 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. and Saturdays 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. and no construction on Sundays or federal holidays.
Maybe not till 6. Could that be a condition, that it doesn't go past like 5 o'clock when people are coming home from work?
You can modify the condition. It's condition number 8 in the attachment, the attached resolution in your packet. We have Exhibit A that has listed of conditions. And so if you want to modify that condition, you can do so as part of a motion as well.
I would like to. I think going till 6 o'clock is too late for residents that come home.
That was for Sunday only?
I think it's during the week, right?
So currently, the hours of construction that are allowed are 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
And on Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So if you'd like to modify those, if you can just specify in your condition if it's for Monday through Saturday or if it's Monday through Friday, etc.
Do I do that now? I would like to see it, you know, not till 6 o'clock, Monday through Saturday. You know, maybe till 4 o'clock on Saturday or 5. We'll have to talk about that. But when people come home from work, I think they don't really want to hear all that construction. And Saturdays, when you're having your parties or family over, how long do you expect construction to last? How long would?
Once we have the civil engineer approved, we're approximately 9 months, give or take.
9 months, okay.
Give or take. But we could work we don't have a problem with construction ending at 4 o'clock. We're
So,
okay with that.
Till 4 o'clock?
Oh, yeah, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
But 7 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
You're right.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
We gotta give them 8 hours.
Right. 'Cause residents will be at work or kids will be at school. Yeah.
And we could adjust with the parking for the employees with the construction. It's in phases. So we have parking on the side of the building, which will kind of be bumper to bumper on one of the side of the gates that will not, it's just empty lot.
Okay, so the construction workers will be parked inside, not on the public.
Correct. We would accommodate that. We also have a lot on 9277 7th Street, which is completely vacant.
Okay.
With just one house, so we could send our other people to park there. Our employees, we could bus them in, drive them in.
Oh, Good idea.
If you make that a requirement, we will commit to that commitment,
Yeah.
and we will let all our construction people
Park.
at the 732 parking.
Yes.
If I could maybe make a suggestion in regards to a potential condition, if the commission would like to include a construction management plan be
Mhm.
submitted with their construction drawings. And so what that'll allow is for things like this to be addressed and proposed, and staff can review them. And then that way we can make sure that any potential impacts are addressed.
So I would like to suggest a construction management plan then. Okay. Let's see what else I heard. And as far as I heard the parking, I know it's unfortunate. You know, I mean, I grew up at a time where we only had one car too. Just my dad drove. You know, he came home, we all got in the car and we went shopping together. It was one car family. And then the 70s came, and then there was two cars, and then kids are moving in, and now there's 4 and 5 and trailers, and yeah, it is. I hear you. I hear you. I think we all know it. I'm talking to the city of San Fernando, LA, everybody, where it is an issue. I wish I could change all that. But yeah, the management plan is what I would like to see because of the construction, the noise, and that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Martinez. Do you have any comments, Commissioner Diaz?
Just a few. Number one, I guess a lot of people maybe that you know that live around, I guess don't know. I know they know that you're there, but I think a lot of the fears that they have clearly, you know, that it's doubling up in size and all that. Maybe if you can clarify to them, or I don't know if you've actually done like an outreach program to your neighbors, you know, so they're aware of how your program runs. Maybe I do understand that they have a lot of concerns, like they said right now, about people walking around. Now, I do not know if they are from your facility whatsoever, you know, but, you know, that would be something, you know, if you could address.
You know, just for the record, I know they mentioned there's always a lot of police officers there. I was part of the POA, and we used to have community safety meetings at the San Fernando Recovery Center. So as a result, I built relations with technically the majority of the police officers and those that have retired already because they're all new. So you periodically see a lot of officers there because they like to go visit me. And we used to have community safety meetings. It was Ford with Julie Cuerva, and we were section 3rd on the northeast side out of that particular building, 762 Griswold. So we have nothing to hide. We're here to serve.
If I can just add on page 8 of the staff report, Marina did include some statistics related to calls for service.
Yeah.
And I'll just read them out so everyone's aware. But in 2024, there were 8 calls for service, 5 were routine calls. And so those could include probation checks or other things that are required for the participants. 1 was a medical emergency call, and 2 were complaints. And only 1 call of service was received in 2023. Those are the only statistics that we have at this time.
Let's see. Sorry. I think you. Sorry. Oh, were you gonna say something? Yeah. No, I think one of my colleagues actually asked that about the cameras, but I think you addressed it too already. That there is, you know, a form of cameras. There is gating all around. There's only one entrance, right? I believe. Yeah. And again, just I understand that people do complain about the parking and stuff like that, but as it stands, it's not going to affect parking right whatsoever. I know I'm just reiterating, but other than that, the third floor, right, is only going to be for staff, right? Staff, and the rest is, and the second and first floor is just going to be for patients, right, that go there.
Correct.
Residents, sorry, residents. They're considered residents actually as of, or clans. Okay. Okie dokes.
Commissioner Lua, any comments?
Yes. I like the fact that there's conditions of approval, and I want to make a quick comment also to the community. We not only look at how pretty the building looks. Okay, we have I guess a more broad picture of what really is going on. When you have a family member or somebody in your family or friends that have these kind of problems, you're kind of hoping that there was help. So we are aware of the parking situation. We are aware of a lot of stuff that really, really affects the city of San Fernando. When I'm going with this, it's a conditional approval. And I'm gonna reference number 8, the construction hours, right? A lot of these, to me, obviously makes sense because you are limiting the amount of hours. And I like to see it too, from like 8 o'clock to perhaps 5 o'clock, Monday to Saturday perhaps. But Sunday, obviously no work at all, right? Because we care for the community as well. Um, Hours of operation as well, it's 24/7, especially because the type of facility that houses multiple residents, right? So multiple clients, multiple residents. And I understand the issue with the parking too. Again, the parking that is provided on site is specifically for staff. Is that correct? Okay. So the residents are not allowed to have cars.
Correct.
The fact that some people have cars and they decide to park 2 or 3 blocks away from there just to get to wherever they need to go, obviously that's a different issue. But I'm sure that once if we all approve this project, obviously, we like to see all these conditionals as part of the plans. And also be, or somehow make the public aware of what really, how involved this project is with, the community. It's not only to cause issues, but it's also to help. And we have to be open-minded for that. Not only they're proposing something that is going to benefit all the LA community, especially also our San Fernando community, but it's going to benefit a lot of families around. I do walk my grandson every day through the San Fernando city. I sometimes go in different directions, and I see a lot of stuff around the city. Haven't seen a lot of people. I didn't even know that that existed there. Again, I'm not being blind to what's going on, but the fact that we want to keep our city beautiful, it's a wonderful thing. Again, I speak out of my heart. The fact that we have a lot of issues with homelessness, not as much. If you go to Pacoima or you go to another cities, there's a lot more than here. It's not a local problem, it's a state problem. Okay, yeah, we complain because we live here. Sometimes people take my parking spot. And again, I'm a resident here and I live here. And I understand that parking outside our houses is not our parking, it's public parking. So anybody could park, right? Am I incorrect with that? So the only last comment that I would like to see, like I said, is maybe a copy of this, and I think it's on number 18. A copy of these conditions of approval shall be printed maybe in the final construction plans. And what I would love to see as well, I don't know whether we could add another one, it's maybe a neighborhood, gathering or some sort to explain what the project it's presenting to the society. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you. So just for the public and for the neighbors and for all those that supported us, I will cater this Saturday, I will have a goat killed for barbacoa, and all the neighbors are welcome. It's one of the best food, and we'll have it in the backyard. So all commissioners, regardless of what the vote is, and our residents and neighbors are more than welcome. so you could take a tour of the facility, understand how the facility is, how much we love plants and the grass in the backyard, and meet some of our clients. Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I'd just like to thank the community for coming out today. You know, everybody that's for it or not for it, we hear you guys. We take all your comments into account of our votes. But I think overall, this new building will help out in general the communities here and our community too. So that's for that one. But I do hear you guys about the parking. I live in San Fernando too, and the parking, you know, it's not good. But the city is looking into how to fix this issue, right? So we hear you guys about the issues. Safety, we have like one of the best. I guess the policing here is really really good. And when something does happen, I know that not just one car shows up, 5 of them or even more. And I think that's a good thing because we have the manpower to do that, the capability to do that. You know, sometimes, like in other cities, like it'll take an hour or sometimes they don't even come, right? So we hear you about the safety. Yeah, thank you for everybody in attendance today. Okay, so now it's time for the commission to vote on.
Can I do one more comment, actually?
Yeah, you can go for it.
Kind of piggybacking on something you actually said. Is there, in your program, I know this is building, but is there anything in your program maybe, you know, because like to address the issue of the parking where people can come visit your patients? Because maybe that's one of the concerns that they have?
They're scheduled visits.
Mhm.
We believe in family reunification, and it's a therapeutic visit too. So it's assigned on the weekends on a need basis, but it's not like you could just show up and have a visit.
Gotcha. No, the reason I'm saying that is because is there any like
Once a month, forgive me.
once a month? Okay. Oh, okay. You know, and they're allowed to park in your parking?
Correct, inside.
Okay. All right. Is there anything, and this is just more like a question that I have. Do the patients actually are allowed to come into your residence and leave their cars around? I know you said that they're not allowed to do that, but
That is not allowed, period. A resident and clients of the facility are not allowed to have vehicles.
is there I don't, like a not an addendum, but like a clause that says that, like if they are, you know. And the reason I'm saying that is because kind of to like appease or let you know the people that are actually concerned about that, you know.
So if I can just give a point of clarification.
Yeah.
The residents are there for 90 days minimum. That's why they don't need a car because they're with us for 90 days. We provide whole person care and we transport them to any medical visits that they may need. When the residents exceed 90 days, then we have to request additional time for them to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, we spoke a little bit already, you know. So definitely, you know, I know about that, but a lot of people I believe do not. So I just wanted to bring it up, you know, so people could actually understand, you know, a little bit more of the ins and outs. And awesome for the Saturday, you know, invite people so they can actually get to know a little bit more. Because yeah, if I was living next to the facility, you know, I have a child too, I would be a little bit hesitant or more than hesitant, you know, because it feels like, you know, bad influences would be coming. But at the same time, it has been here for more than 40 years plus, you know, and it is something that we do need. I understand that there's people that, you know, that feel that it's a detriment, you know, but at the same time, you know, it seems to be well thought and planned out, you know, it's not just a ad hoc, you know, the word as is, just let's throw it in there. So that's all I have to say.
I have a comment as well, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, if you were done, I'm sorry. Yes. Just, I only asked my questions and I didn't throw out my comment because I was afraid of taking too long. But in the area of San Fernando that I live in, is really close to, it's called Metamorphosis. It's on Foothill, and it's an apartment building for families experiencing homelessness. When this was built, my children were very little, and I was very concerned for the parking. I'm also a resident of San Fernando, and I live really close to the Silmar site, so the parking has been an issue. It's been pulling hairs. All that you mentioned, I've gone through it. And when this was built, that was also my concern. Not only are my children going to be safe, but am I going to have a spot to park my car? So I understand you. I completely understand you. I have felt the same way you're feeling right now. On the other hand, I wanted to say that I feel like we're all scared when we see a drunk person or a drugged person walking around our area. It's natural to be scared, and especially if we have little children, especially if it's our community, we want to protect it. And typically what we ask is, okay, you want to be scared, you want to be drunk, or you want to be drunk or drugged, go do it away from me, not in my house. And so what we're doing is we're not fixing the problem, we're just sending the problem somewhere else. And what I see that Julio is doing is that he's running towards the problem and trying to solve the issue at the root. And I appreciate that. I feel like there's a lot of programs out there for families or women and children, but I haven't heard many for males, and it's a huge issue. So I personally really appreciate this, that this is happening, that you're paying it forward, like a Starbucks line, right? We're paying for the one behind us. We are very privileged to not have to go through that and not have to need the services of a house like that. I am thankful to God that I don't need that, right? That I didn't even know it was in my backyard. So I'm very thankful for that. But I also feel like we have to, my commitment to be in this chair is to be able to see the community's side of things and then the cities and the needs, and then try to put a balance and cast my vote, right? As a resident, I didn't want that, not when it was in Silmar, the metamorphosis. But also as a resident, knowing more about the project has helped me a lot, even when that one was being built. And I think that's where the key is, the knowledge, knowing really everything about the project to not only see how it affects us, but also how it helps us. And I see more help than hurt here. So thank you.
Is there any more comments from the commissioners? No? Okay, so this portion is now closed. At this time now, the commission will take vote on public item number 2. Is there a motion and a second to approve the conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the San Fernando Recovery Center?
I motion.
I second.
If I may, Chair, someone mentioned something about a construction management plan. So that would cover hours, employee parking, all of that, but it should be stated, if that's the motion, then that should be stated.
Okay, so is there a motion and a second to approve the construction management plan along with the conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the San Fernando Recovery Center?
Motion.
Was there also, sorry for Commissioner Martinez, was there going to be revised hours of construction? If the commission chooses to have that, that'd have to be part of the motion as well.
Yeah.
So would it be 3 or would it be just?
Reduce the hours
3?
of construction, because they're already listed. No?
So we're good with just the construction management plan and the permit, right? We
If
don't
you
have
can
to.
include the reduction of construction hours, what you want them to be, only because condition number 8 specifies the construction hours right now being longer. So
Okay.
if you want to reduce them, if you can just say what those are.
Okay. So is there a motion and a second to approve a construction management plan and then the construction work hours to be from 7 to 5 p.m. Monday through Saturday, and the conditional use permit to allow the expansion of the San Fernando Recovery Center?
I second. I move to,
I
the
second.
motion.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Martinez,
Yes.
Commissioner Diaz,
Yes.
Commissioner Lua, Commissioner Solorio,
Yes.
motion passes.
So now we're gonna go to agenda line item number 3. presentation of a role and responsibility of the Planning and Probation Commissioner. Do we have a presentation for that?
Yes, and our city attorney's office, Lloyd Pitchson, is going to be providing that presentation.
Thank you.
Chair, perhaps you want to take a 2-minute break to let people leave the room?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you. Thank you.
Everybody's welcome, and I mean, that's it, right? Yeah. Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Lloyd. Feel free to interrupt me anytime. If you have a question or something's not clear, or a question comes up in your mind, no big deal, just interrupt me. I am jumping around a little if you have a printout in front of you, but I'm starting on slide 4 for just a quick refresher of the, let's call it the hierarchy of planning documents. So all of the planning cases that come before you, the planners will always talk about the general plan. The general plan is what's called like the Bible, okay? It's the general picture of zoning in the city. So everything has to conform to the general plan. No project can be approved that is not consistent with the general plan. Below that in the hierarchy is specific plans. It's a lot like a general plan, but it's usually a more specific area. The housing element, you've heard talk of that. That's part of the general plan. And then more specifically, so going down the hierarchy, is the zoning code. That applies the zoning classifications to each property. Okay, so just the hierarchy. Yes, please. I can't hear you.
Yes, please. Okay. So when you said the housing element, is that what you, the 1,700 homes that need to be built every 8 years, the number that we receive every 8 years, is that what that
Yes,
is related to?
and so in the general plan, there are several elements that are required to be part of it. The housing element is one of those elements. It is the only one that we need to update every 8 years.
Thank you.
Okay, this is the most important slide in the presentation because it shows the difference between what the city council does, the legislative body, and what the planning commission does. The fancy term is quasi-judicial. So the legislative body, they enact the laws. So they adopt the general plan, they adopt the zoning code, and any specific plan. So when you have a project before you, if you don't think that that should be in that location, that it shouldn't even be an option. So for example, we had a conditional use permit this evening. The zoning code allows it with a conditional use permit. If you disagree, if you think that, you know what, it should never be allowed, that's an issue to bring up with the city council. So that could be, say, a recommendation to the city council. But the planning commission, excuse me, doesn't have the power to legislate what should be where, okay? So, yeah, sure. So city council legislates. The planning commission's role is to apply that to specific projects. So the zoning code is the legislation that decides what can go where, and then specific projects come before you. Those specific projects generally will only go to the city council if they're appealed to the city council. If there's a decision here and someone appeals it to the city council, someone could appeal tonight's decision for all we know.
Question, how long does it take for that appeal to happen? And the reason that I'm asking that question is because we just had something like that happen like 3 sessions ago in regards to an apartment building located on Brand Boulevard.
Right. So for sure, there's a short time period in which whoever is disappointed with that decision, sometimes it's the public, sometimes it's the applicant, there's a short time period in which they must file an appeal. I think it's 10 days. As far as when it gets scheduled at the council, is it in the zoning code? Okay, so it's just going to be a reasonable time. It can't be put off forever, okay?
And you said that we're like it says quasi-judicial body. In that instance, we actually used, we didn't approve of it. So what exactly is that terminology called that we can use to, table it for another day, I guess would be.
You're saying in general when you want to table a project?
Yeah, I guess the proper words are stall the project because we do not agree with it. So therefore we are recommending for the advisory, council to take a look into it, because we're not recommending it. So what verbiage is that we have to use?
Well, in that case, what you're talking about is the planning commission made a decision. So the planning commission took a vote. You're done then. That's fine. That's the planning commission's decision. And then if someone appeals, in that case the applicant did, then it goes before them. So I'm not sure I'm following about, there's no more any action required here. Okay?
No, I just want to where we, because like you said, it's kind of judicial, but not really, you know.
Well, I'm not sure what you mean by judicial.
Meaning we're more here to recommend stuff to city council things, you know, and kind of like a buffer.
You know, I'll tell you what's meant by that term. It's a fancy term,
But yeah.
quasi-judicial. So, you know, I wouldn't get hung up on the term judicial, but what they mean by it is that it's distinct from legislation. Okay, just like we have three branches of government, right? There's the legislative branch, they're making the laws, so that's the city council. So what is it that the planning commission does? It's hearing testimony and it's applying those rules to a specific property. That's called quasi-judicial, almost like a judge.
But not, yeah.
That's kind of what it means, but it's just a fancy term. I wouldn't get hung up on that. But the important thing is that when it comes down to legislation, like a zone change, for example, an applicant wants to change the zone on their property so that they can build a restaurant there, and let's say the zone doesn't allow it. So that will come to the planning commission first, but only for a recommendation, because a zone change is legislative, must be made by the city council. Okay? All right. So the examples of the quasi-judicial, we should just forget that term. The examples of the types of decisions that the planning commission makes: variance, conditional use permit, other entitlements. Entitlement's just a synonym for a permit. So tonight we had conditional use permit. We also had a site plan review. That's another example of an entitlement. Okay, so let's see my notes. Right. All right, the only thing to look at on this page is there is a constitutional issue, which is if the city will not allow a landowner to do anything on their property. Let's say they have a vacant property, and let's say it's a residential zone, and the neighborhood is built out, and there's one vacant property, and you know, that's a bad example because a single-family home, that landowner would not need to come to the planning commission for. But let's say it was a project that did require some entitlement. And the planning commission or the public thought, you know, it's great having this property vacant. It should stay vacant. We need green space. So we're just not going to approve anything. Okay, that would be vulnerable to a constitutional challenge because of the Fifth Amendment prohibition against taking property. So when you say to a landowner, you can't do anything with your property, you can't get any value out of it because we want to use it, the public wants to use it to be able to enjoy green space. That's taking private property for a public purpose. It would be as if the city was building a road through someone's property. It can be done, but they have to pay for it. So that's where the Constitution comes in. All right. Should I go on or should I take a moment? Okay. All right. So here's the path of appeal that we talked about earlier. There are entitlements that can be approved by the Director of Community Development, okay? But they are subject to appeal to the Planning Commission.
I can give an example of that. So like, for example, in our code, site plan reviews are approved by the director, so at staff level. If someone wants to appeal that decision, then that appeal would come before the Planning Commission.
So in that sense, the planning commission is the appeal body. And then anything decided at the planning commission, even when the planning commission is the appeal body, that too can be appealed to the city council, okay? And for example, City of LA is not like that because there are so many projects going on in the City of LA that the city council could never hear appeals on everything. So in the City of LA, the planning commission, they're called area planning commissions because they have multiple ones. That's the highest level. There's no appeal to the city council, okay? There just wouldn't be time for it, okay? So that's the appeal. Oh, and then of course, once the city council makes its decision, then if anyone is unhappy, they can file a lawsuit. We're going to talk about that when we talk about findings. What would a lawsuit be like? Or what would a lawsuit be based on? All right, example of the path. And look, this was before you all switched seats. Okay, so we went through this. But this is important to see that the normal planning process begins with staff processing the application. Staff has to go through environmental review, which we will talk about in a moment, and staff writes the findings. We're going to talk about findings in a moment. Okay. This is the other most important slide, findings. I call this findings, 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 okay? That's we all must know about findings, all right? Findings are true in all kinds of law, not just in planning and zoning. It's basic administrative law. And what findings are there to protect against is someone making an arbitrary decision. So if someone brings their house plans to the counter at the building department, that plan checker there does not have the power to say, you know, that's the ugliest house I've ever seen. I am just not going to give you a permit for it, okay? So that's an example of an arbitrary decision. Government decision makers don't have that ability to just on their whim decide that they don't like something. So how do we protect against that? All decisions have to be supported by findings, and those findings are in the legislation. So in the zoning code, that is. So the conditional use permit that we looked at this evening, some of the findings are that the proposed use would not impair the integrity and character of the zone, that the site is physically suitable, that the use would be compatible with other land uses. Those are findings, right? Findings, staff does the work for you. They make a recommendation and they draft the findings. So is there only one possible answer? Because there's evidence, right? And staff are using the evidence to write those findings. The answer is no, because the findings that are adopted have to be supported by what's called substantial evidence. Substantial evidence means that when the judge is reviewing it, the judge can see that there's some evidence that's believable that's supporting it. Sometimes that's public testimony. Yeah, there's many things that can comprise evidence, but it's not a matter of weighing the evidence. So if there's a ton of evidence over here against a project, let's say, and there's less evidence over here supporting the project, you can still vote to support the project as long as there's enough of that evidence. It's not a weighing. It doesn't have to be the weight of the evidence. It just has to be substantial enough that it convinced you, okay? So that's why sometimes when staff makes a recommendation and the planning commission hears the testimony, it's possible for the planning commission to vote in the other way. But there must be findings to support that decision. So there's a couple different ways that you can do that. One is you can ask staff to consider the things that were talked about among the commissioners and talked about in the public hearing, and you can continue the item to the next meeting and ask staff to come back with new findings drafted the way you'd like them to read, okay? So that's one way it can be done. Another way it can be done is findings can be made verbally on the record. That's a little messier because somehow they have to be presented. If the project gets appealed, those findings somehow have to be presented to the city council. But it's possible. Verbal, I should say, oral findings are upheld in court. It's possible to do it that way. But like I say, the cleaner way is to ask staff to. Staff are your staff, including me. We're here for you, so you can give us direction about what you would like to see come back to you, okay? Let's see, what else to say about findings?
Sorry, but we would do that before we have like the meeting, right? Or-
Well, your deliberation happens in the meeting. So you cannot discuss about the project outside of a meeting. But you raise a very good point. What can you do outside of a meeting? And what I wanted to, when I say use us, use the staff, my suggestion is don't hesitate to call the planners. You can call Erica or email Erica, and maybe there's a particular planner that was more involved in this project that will get back to you. But if you have questions, or if you think, if you want to talk about what you're reading in the staff report, that can be done one-on-one. There's no violation of the Brown Act or anything like that if one of you calls staff and wants to talk about the project, ask questions, ask about what kind of letters have come in. All these things, there's no problem with you learning as much as you can before the meeting. The only thing you can't do, which we're not covering the Brown Act in this presentation, but you'll be getting training in that online, I think. But when I say the Brown Act, that's open meeting laws. You can't all get on a Zoom call privately and talk about, for example, for that matter, 3 of you cannot get on a call together, because that would be 3 of you, as you know, would create a meeting. That would be a quorum. 3 of you is enough to have a meeting. So if any 3 of you are talking, that's a violation, because that kind of talking is supposed to happen in an open meeting.
How about going into the facility, like the case from tonight? Would that be acceptable to go in and look at it?
Great point. Absolutely. Just don't do it with 3 people, right? You might have an applicant contact you and ask if they can meet you for coffee. You're allowed to do that. Okay? They're a constituent. They're a member of the public, and you can talk to them just like you could talk to anyone in the public. Maybe another constituent wants to have coffee with you and tell you why you should vote against a project. You are allowed to do all that. What your concern should be, and it actually comes up in a future slide about a fair meeting, is don't make any promises, okay? If the project looks wonderful to you, just say, this looks very interesting. If you make a promise, this is great, I'm gonna vote for it, that is an indication that you're walking into the meeting with your mind made up. And you are supposed to come into a meeting with an open mind. okay? So, as I say, meeting with anyone, a developer, an applicant, or an opponent, anyone, you are allowed to do that. Some cities want more, what's the word, transparency. So I know a city like West Hollywood, they're very liberal there. So they have a rule that they've imposed on themselves, which is, yes, you can meet with those people, but at the start of the item, each commissioner discloses. It says, I met with the developer, we talked, that's it. As long as it's disclosed, again, there's nothing wrong with it. But in West Hollywood, they want the commissioners to announce that. You're always free to announce it, but you're not forced to announce it.
How do you announce that?
I'm sorry?
How would you announce that? Like, come here and like put it on the bulletin or something, or what?
When you're in your discussion, well, first of all, you wouldn't have to, but if you wanted to, the time would be during your deliberation. Remember that during deliberation, you're all free to say anything you want, I think like you all did tonight. So in that kind of sharing, you could say, just want to let you all know, I met with the developer and they told me about this and I listened. So, it's just something to share, but it's not required.
Got it.
Okay, shall I move on? All right. So the other things, findings, right. Okay, so CEQA is the environmental law in California. You will hear more and more about it in this job. In fact, you'll all become experts in CEQA. And you see what it stands for. And the whole point of CEQA is so that decision makers are considering environmental effects before they happen. The classic example of how the country used to do things is we'd build a dam. And then decades later, we'd see, oh, you know what? That kind of has an effect on spawning salmon. Rats. We just never thought about that. So that's the whole point of CEQA, is to have a document where all these things are considered. And they're not just wildlife, they're also aesthetics. Is this going to block people's view? Is it going to be unsightly? Noise, of course. So all these there's a whole list of environmental effects. And importantly, because this comes up a lot in a built-out area like San Fernando, LA, we're in a concrete jungle here. And when you're in a concrete jungle like we live in, there are exemptions from CEQA. And one of them is called infill, which means if the whole area is concrete, and it's been that way for decades and decades, then it may fall within this exemption from CEQA, which is, it's just unlikely that we're going to have an effect on an endangered species in an urban environment like this. So it's just an infill exemption is a common exemption, but there's others too. Certainly the size of a project. You can build not just one single family home, a builder can build 3 single family homes, and that's exempt from CEQA. It's just considered too small a project.
What projects would be considered for CEQA that we've had?
Do you have an example of one that didn't fall within an exemption? So if it doesn't fall within an exemption, then you have to go through and you have to analyze whether there are any significant environmental effects. I mean, I don't want to do a CEQA.
No. Just
That's all
because
right.
I don't think, like you said, San Fernando doesn't seem to fall into that prerogative whatsoever, other than maybe like the wash. But again, it's like,
Well, yeah, there you go. I mean, you do have natural areas, so don't let me.
no, but it's paved over like concrete. So, it's
Okay.
like, so technically, I don't know. That's why.
But
That's why I'm asking the
Eric-
question. It's like,
Yeah, sure. Erica may have a better example of a recent project, but let me just say that I was going to say about the thing about CEQA is it's all about a threshold, which is called significant environmental effect. So everything makes noise, but it's only going to be a problem for CEQA if it's a significant effect, okay? So, oh, you're not talking about in Chicago?
No, I'm sorry. The one downtown.
Okay.
It's not in Sears Tower, you're right. It's the old Sears.
I'm from Chicago, so
Well,
that's where my mind
old
goes.
Sears building in
Uh-huh.
LA
Uh-huh.
that, used to be Sears.
Ah.
Shop, but then it was recently converted to a mall.
Oh, okay.
Did they have to go? Or I guess you don't.
No doubt, but no doubt.
I think it had to because there are schools nearby and
Sure.
pollution studies.
There you go. Yeah. CEQA also has to deal with air quality, and then, not to get too much in the weeds, but because the point of CEQA is so that you make an informed decision, it doesn't require the outcome. So if CEQA does identify significant effects, let's just use the example of the spawning salmon and the dam. Once the effect is identified, this is going to have a significant effect. The decision makers can still decide to go through with the project, okay? They just have to do it knowing that that's going to be the effect. And then there's an approval, a document that they approve that says, we recognize the effect and we're overriding those concerns because we have other concerns, economics and things like that, okay?
But there usually is a mitigation monitoring program that is usually adopted. If there is something that's identified to have a significant effect, then you will have to have some sort of measures in place to, quote unquote, mitigate, to reduce the impacts.
That's right.
Right.
That's right. Or that's right. That's right. Another common one is if it is a field, a natural field that's being developed, and there is a concern about that, migrating birds sometimes nest here. There may be a condition, a mitigation measure that will be that construction has to occur only during certain times of the year. So that's called mitigation. In fact, that takes us to our next slide. So these are, I've kind of gone through this, but these are the various elements of a CEQA, various CEQA documents. So we talked about an exemption. The initial study is what staff goes through to identify any significant effects. Negative declaration means that they've gone through the list, aesthetics, noise, air quality, all kinds of things, and they found there's no significant effect. Everything is below the threshold. Then it would be a negative declaration. Mitigated negative declaration means there are mitigation measures, like the time of year of construction, that keeps it below the level of significance. And the most intense CEQA document is the environmental impact report. Have we done any of those recently?
Not that I know of.
But it's certainly a big project would almost certainly have an environmental impact report.
It seems like most of the things that come to us, they don't have the negative declaration, right? Because they get like the seal of approval from staff, right? Usually, or
Mm.
at least I haven't seen any. Like,
Gotten ones with exemptions,
Mhm.
but there is some, I don't want to say that there isn't any analysis. There is some, depending on the type of exemption, we still may be required to do some analysis to make sure that it fits within that specific exemption. So like, for example, the one for the conditional use permit that was brought before you tonight, we do have the exemption that was prepared. And so there was some analysis that was done, but it's explaining as to why it fits into that specific categorical exemption. So it's still a justification that has to happen in order to bring that to you.
Ms. Ramirez, and it's the staff that does these analysis?
No, so we actually went through an RFP process last year where we created a on-call list of pre-approved certified CEQA consultants. And so we have a list of 7 firms, again, that all went through the RFP list. We vetted them, we selected them. And so as long as the applicant chooses one of those 7 firms, then we do what's called a 3-party agreement. So meaning they're the consultant, they prepare the CEQA document, but they interact with us. So it's like they work for us, but they get paid from the applicant. And so it's just to make sure that we have those expertise available to us as staff, because it does require some, special technical expertise that unfortunately I don't have.
I mean, these consultants have biologists on staff and all kinds of technical people, noise studies, and
Paleontologist, archaeologist,
there you go,
yeah,
archaeologists.
engineers.
That's right.
So it makes sure that we have that level of document and that level of analysis that was conducted, even, for our small city.
So due process is another constitutional term, but it's all about fairness, getting a fair hearing. And this is the point that I made earlier about don't announce your feelings about it before the hearing. As you did tonight, you're listening to everyone, and that because they could change your mind. That's the whole point of an open hearing, is to listen to everyone. It doesn't mean that your questions to staff or your comments before the public hearing portion doesn't mean that you can't be leaning one way or the other. You just have to have an open mind when you do listen to them. Okay?
Can I ask a question on that regard? I made a comment earlier in the meeting that seemed to be that I was leaning toward it. Was that wrong?
No, it wasn't wrong, because like I say, you're during this meeting, you may be swayed one way or the other. Okay, so there's I promise you, I did not hear anything like that. No, it would be more like I've seen it happen where the item is announced and someone says, I'm voting yes on this, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of thing to avoid. Or to be talking about it to the newspaper. We've had this with council members in other cities where it's okay for a council member, any elected official, to have a policy feeling about things. So council members run on, I'm pro-development or I'm anti-development, those kinds of things. Those are big picture policy statements that are normal for politicians to make. But what they can't do is say, when that project comes before me, I am definitely voting against it. So they can't, you get the idea.
Quick comment too. I noticed that some of the people as well, they capture when I say that project is beautiful, the architectural portion of it. Architecture, my passion, obviously, but I capture that and they just pay attention really well to that. So
Right. Well,
they might think that we're just focusing on that, but at least me, it's just
No, that was the emotions that ran high.
it's
They were
just the
attributing
emotions.
everything. Yeah.
They just get like emotional about it,
And it's hard to please everyone.
Yeah, it's very hard.
Yeah, you're all in a tough public position, so you'll take the brunt when people don't like the decision. All right, so that's about a fair hearing, and that comes to Erica. Do you ever give like a preview of things coming down the pike? Anything like that? That would be an example where if planning staff say, at the end of the meeting, planning staff have their point in the agenda where they can tell you about things that are coming up or anything like that. And they may say, you know, we have this mall is going to be, there's an application coming in for a mall or things like that. They may say something like that. That would be the time that would be, it would, if I'm here or whoever the lawyer is, would advise that you shouldn't be discussing that project specifically, because talking about due process, fairness, that applicant has the right to present their side to you and not have you start having your public hearing before they're even present. So that's why if there is such an event where staff mentions some application that came in or something, it would be okay for a planning commissioner to say to staff, well, just make sure that you're looking at parking. You could say something like that. Just don't say, I hate this idea, that kind of thing. Okay. So, you know, there's a lot of gray area, but you get the idea that the applicant has to have their fair hearing.
But there's no issue if one of us wants to go around because we heard it, you know, ahead of time, you know, do like a little bit of legwork, right? That's, you know, just to see like our own discoveries, I guess,
Oh,
technically, or
to go out to the site?
to the site.
I would
or-
encourage it. I would encourage it. The more knowledgeable you are before you have a hearing on the item, the better.
Okay, so that wouldn't be like, you know, crossing boundaries whatsoever then.
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay.
Just like I said, talking to the applicant even is fine, as long as you don't make your decision before coming to the public hearing. But yeah, in fact, you know, as a land use guy, I mean, I say it's really, you all know, it's helpful to see a site. You learn things that you can't always know on paper.
As a follow-up question to what he mentioned, you mentioned 3 of us cannot have a conversation about that, but 2 of us can. And how about if, say, I know, you know, Mayor Mary Mendoza is, I cannot talk to her about it? Okay.
It's like this, or I'm not sure, maybe I cut you off too early. That thing about 3 people, there's some other rules about that you'll learn when you learn about the ethics or the Brown Act, which is people have tried to play games with that, okay? So we can't have 3 people talking, but what if we have 2 people talking? What if you talk to you, and then you talk to you, and then you talk to you, and then you talk to you, and in all these conversations, you say, well, I know that Commissioner Sanchez has already said this, and I know that Commissioner Martinez has said that. So that's called a serial meeting, right? There's 2 types. There's serial, which is like that, and then there's hub and spokes. Hub and spokes is like the one of you talks to each of you and then, you know, tells each other what you've all done. So those are forbidden. But I'm sorry, Commissioner Sanchez, did I cut you off? Were you talking about talking to a council member?
Right. So if I know for a fact that, you know, one of the council members is very familiar with the topic and I just want to do my due diligence, is that prohibited, accepted?
I don't see a problem with that. Do you? I don't see a problem with that. It's just 2 of you, and the council member is just 1 council member. You're not getting 3 council members.
But you can speak to other council members too. I guess that's where it's coming. Like, how far can we go? Because yes, you might know 1 council member, but I might, you know, he might know 2. And say, well, can I talk to them about what's going on?
Right. Well, I mean, the thing to be careful about is, again, not creating a meeting.
It's not trying to do loopholes. I think it's more like for us to know, like, well, I don't want to get in trouble. I think all of us at least be like, I don't want to get in trouble, so
Yeah.
I want to do this the right way.
Yeah, and it's a small town, so many of you know each other, and so the danger areas would be telling people on the body, either body, this body or the city council body, telling people what others of their colleagues are thinking. Okay, so if Commissioner Sanchez is talking to Commissioner Martinez, and you're talking about what you know the others are thinking because you've talked to them, that's creating a meeting. So that's the danger area. And the same thing is true at the city council. So even if it's just 1 of you, and you're talking to one city council member who tells you that they've talked to two others, they're creating a city council meeting. So those are the danger areas of creating a meeting. But like I say, it's a small town, and you know, you're not going to be able to avoid talking to people. You know, I know council members who go out to dinner after a council meeting, all sitting at a table, and it's not a problem if they don't talk any business. Okay? So you're allowed to be social. That's the thing. A social meeting, you know, any kind of social meeting is fine as long as you're not talking city business. Okay? So then it becomes a matter of trust. You see in the restaurant, you see all these council members sitting together. Do you trust that they're not talking about city business?
Scout's honor.
All right, I'm going to close with my recommendations for what to focus on as a commissioner. Use the staff and ask them questions. Read the staff report. I know you get these packets with a lot of things in them. You know, you see the resolutions, you see the application in there too.
Resolution, conditions of approval, and staff report.
I would start with the staff report, because the whole point of the staff report is staff explaining it to you. So since that's the purpose of it, I would focus on that. And besides, much of that, much of it reproduces things that are found elsewhere. So you don't really have to read the resolution, because the resolution is just going to, it will state the findings, but they're in the staff report. So I would focus on the staff report, focus on, obviously, what is the project, what's the being built here, what's being proposed, is it a restaurant, is it a live-in facility, whatever, and then focus on what is the entitlement, what's the permit, is it a conditional use permit, is it a variance, because that's that's the application that's before you, is that permit. It's not necessarily whether you think anything should be there at all. It's just, like for example, let's say it's a height variance, okay? That's all that's before you, is that additional height, not the rest of the building, because apparently they could build that without the height variance. So focus on what's the decision that's being asked that you make. Is it a variance? Is it a conditional use permit? And then focus on the findings. And ask or talk, feel free to talk to staff beforehand if you feel that you want to talk about it, because that's what they're there for. Okay? I'll give you just one example, if I may, or are we going too late? Is it too, anyone want to wrap it up? I could close here. Yes. That's a great question. Erica can tell you that. So why was 3 stories an issue?
Well, it wasn't an issue related to staff. Staff did not have issue with the 3 stories. We did look at the design as a whole, and Marina worked with the architect probably for almost a year before we deemed it complete, because we wanted to make sure that it had step backs, you know, in regards to it, that it was, even though it was a different architectural style, it still had some of the similar features, so that way it blended a little bit more with the 1-story home. But we didn't.
Height was allowed?
Height was allowed. We did not have to ask for any special approval. No, what was the decision tonight was to allow the facility
The
to
use.
expand, the use.
But that's a very good point, because that would be a great question to ask when looking through the staff report in fact, it must have said it in the staff report that it complies with height.
Yeah, the only thing that I will say, like in this case where the site plan review was in front of you, where normally that portion is not, is because when you have to bring, like, for example, the conditional use came forward, but the project, the construction of it was required for that use to be allowed. So those two applications came before you. So it kind of created like a coupling effect where if there's more than one type of application and one has to come to the planning commission, then anything else also comes to the planning commission. So that's why you're able to make comments in regards to design or construction, because those are also included as in the conditions of approval.
But the bottom line is height was by right.
So the building was approved, they didn't need any of our votes. It was the occupation, right?
Well, it was because, again, when there's one application that has to come to commission, then whatever else also comes to commission. So if you wanted to, let's say, put a condition where you wanted to have, you wanted to know if the applicant would have certain shutters, or you wanted him to step back the third story even more, or you wanted
Design issues.
right. If you did have some design issues related to the site plan review, you could have brought those forward as well, because we had to bring everything forward.
But it sounds like they couldn't have cut the height because if it was allowed by right.
Well,
Right,
but it's
have
part of.
asked the applicant if he was willing to reduce it, but it wouldn't. It's not a requirement, right? Because it is allowed per development standards. Yeah.
And that, if I may, that's an important distinction to know in your job, is the distinction between by right, which is another way of saying as a matter of right, or that you know this well, that you're allowed by the law to do it and you don't need a special approval for. I remember when I first got into this area of law and I heard my colleagues saying by right, and I never heard that phrase. I couldn't even hear what the words were that they were saying. But it means that they're entitled to it, and you can't take that away from them. So it's like building a single-family home on a single-family lot. That's by right. It's never going to come to the planning commission. So it's important to know because, for example, they may come before you with a, well, let's say the difference between an apartment building and a condo. So a condominium for sale project, that's a subdivision of land. Those units are being subdivided and sold. That requires planning commission approval. But the builder might, depending on the zoning, might be able to build the exact same building as an apartment without you at all. It may be allowed by right. So it's an important, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's an important distinction because when you're considering this condo project, if the thing that you don't like about it is the height or the number of units, realize that they may be able to do it without you. They just won't be able to sell them as condos.
Is that why they haven't split the addresses? Because
I don't know. I don't know.
because
what
it seems like once you actually bring them together, there's a certain like.
I think if I may, what happens is when you combine all the addresses on a single lot, it's a single APN, right? It becomes a single parcel. So that's why they allow to combine them. And in this particular case, the use they have is already there.
It's already there. So the only thing we did was just allocate
What's the
42 more, I think 42 more beds but by right they had the ability to do the third floor, right, I think.
So it's a good question to ask of staff is if they weren't coming, let's say they came for a variance, for a height variance or something like that, it'd be a reasonable question to ask staff, well, if they didn't get this variance, what are they allowed to do by right? You know, it might be that they can do quite a bit by right.
Well, this situation, they're like on a borderline, right? It seems like where they're at because there's like a 2-story apartment building right next to them, but on the other side, it's just single family dwellings, and I know there's a special permit for it to be there.
Right. well, I did think just from a design perspective that the architect did a good job of talking about a transitional use, you know. So that just thought that was interesting. But anyway, I think we're getting off topic. So I was just going to say one thing about an example of that I've seen in another city where that would be a good example of not paying attention to the findings, okay? So take, for example, a corner commercial like strip mall or something, and it's in bad economic times. So there's vacancies and the owner of the property is having a difficult time renting out these storefronts. And so I saw this once in a meeting where the landlord was able to rent out one of these storefronts to some type of a school, like a vocational training or something like that, okay? In the zone, commercial zone, that's allowed, but it requires a CUP. It's considered a school, okay? So a CUP is all about, is it compatible with the surrounding uses? So one of the commissioners was thinking, you know, I'd like to see the city make more tax revenue from a commercial use in there. If some store is selling something, the city's going to get tax money for it, okay? So that commissioner stated that on the record that they were going to vote against this use for that reason. So that's straying from the findings, because the findings are all about compatibility, not about what's the best money maker. And besides, you know, the market is going to decide what's a money maker. Once the economy got better and more tenants wanted to use those storefronts, that's a decision for the landlord to make. Well, I can make more money having a 7-Eleven here than having this little school. But that's a market decision. That's not your decision. Your decision is not to say, well, I'd rather see something different there. Your role is to focus on the finding. And the finding in the case of a CUP is largely about, is it compatible? Is it, and you know, an example of something not compatible would be like a big, crowded, noisy nightclub right next to residential uses. So that would be an example of, you might deny a CUP like that because of compatibility with the surroundings. But I think we did stray in tonight's meeting when there was talk about value, land value. And some of the speakers were saying it's going to lower my property values. Well, that's not a finding, you know. And who's to say? You know, maybe one expert will say one thing and one expert will say another. So that I would say, if the body decided to vote against the project because of a perceived effect on neighboring land value, that could be a legal vulnerability. Okay. All I can say is that, and Erica actually mentioned it, which is that the law, not just the municipal code here, but the state law says how you have to notice things, all right? And it's very specific because, as you can imagine, there's all these problems, and there's got to be a balance between having a rule that staff can follow, because they can't go door to door and make sure everyone gets it. So there has to be a rule to follow, and you know, it has to be a reasonable rule. And then some people are going to fall through the cracks. You know, mail sometimes doesn't get delivered, or like Erica was saying, the rule is that it has to get sent to the owner. So the owner may be elsewhere. And then that means that the renter may not get it. So, you know, it's possible for a city to say, we're going to have a more expansive rule, and we're gonna do more than is required by state law. But, you know, that would have to be something for the city council to adopt. But did I cover that okay, Erica?
Tenants versus property owners, which we have seen in other situations.
So I think I'll close unless there's any other questions. And I'm always available. You can ask questions in any meeting. Or call, you can call too.
Any more questions, commissioners?
If I may, it's not only that, but there is a legal way for us with the help of consulting companies to have a list of property owners that is pretty accurate on the day. But there is no way to compile a list of tenants. They are not registered anywhere. So how can we prove that we covered everyone? Right.
And we can't send address to San Fernando official addresses?
So in some instances, like with the project that has been appealed, we did double duty. We sent to property owners, and we sent just letters without names to occupants to the same addresses. But again, in some cases, we don't know how many occupants, how many families are there. So it's the best we can do.
If it's something that the commission, wants to. Yeah, if that's something that the commission wants to put on the agenda in terms of a discussion item, noticing, and if there is a recommendation that you are able to make a recommendation, for example, to council, because that would be an amendment to the municipal code, that we would, notice property owners and occupants if that's something that the commission feels is an agenda item.
It would be interesting to know if any other cities do that, you know.
In my experience, I have worked at some cities where it is in their code where it is property owners and occupants within a certain radius. But it's been like, I want to say like 2 out of the 5.
In LA, but just make a last comment myself too. The rule also, it's in the code. You have to notify if you're building something like, let's say around the corner, you have to notify all your neighbors. But that's something that the actual homeowner or the person that is doing the project needs to apply for and pay for that distribution of notices.
They hire a consultant.
Yeah, they hire a consultant.
Radius
You
maps.
send it to all of the area surrounding the project. But again, that money comes out of the actual owner, not really the city.
Yeah, we do. We ask for that map and then the labels. So we send the notices to make sure that they're sent, but we do ask them to provide that so that way they're paying for it versus the city.
So if there is no further comments or questions, thank you for the presentation, Lloyd. Item is received and filed. And the next item on the agenda is staff communication.
Thank you. I'll just be brief. I just wanted to give some bad news, but then followed by good news. The bad news is that the Commissioner Academy is full. And so the good news is that I am going to make sure that it's a part of my budget enhancement request for next year. So hopefully we'll be able to register you right away if it's approved by council. The other good news, though, that is Lloyd's presentation kind of kicked off what I'm going to do in terms of bringing different topics to the commission. So that way, even though you didn't get to go to the academy, we will still cover those different topics. So we'll have a topic about zoning, like San Fernando zoning, so we'll go over our zoning map and our specific plan area, so you could be familiar with that. And then the next meeting, we can do a short presentation on CEQA. So very high level, but at least still provide the information that you would have received at the Planning Commission Academy this year. So that's my announcement.
Well, thank you, Erica. What's next? Also, now it's just general commission comments. If any of you have any comments or concerns in general?
I have a question. Am I able to get a copy of that presentation so I can reference and notate as needed?
Yes, I have it, and I can email it to everyone.
I appreciate that. And as far as comment, you were saying to depend on the staff for questions. And I have made a couple of calls or emails, and they've been nothing but wonderful. I've been lost as far as what I need to do, where I need to go. And you guys have answered my questions. So I really enjoy how welcoming everybody is here. So I'm excited about that. Thank you for that.
No.
No comments? No comments? No comments? Okay, so there's no further discussion. This meeting is now adjourned at 9:18 p.m. And our next Planning and Commission will be on March 10th. Thank you.